Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Mari-chan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are continuing with the reading of Devil Venerable Also Wants to Know, or 魔尊也想知道 by Cyan Wings AKA. And we're starting at chapter 48. Considering this is a Monday video, we've got a lot of ground to cover. So I hope you guys are ready for 2 hours or a tiny bit more worth of reading today. Enjoy! Chapter 48 Blossoming of the Spider Lilies. Wenren wasn't someone like Zhongli who wouldn't miss a single detail. When it came to strategy, he knew he couldn't compare to Zhongli. He couldn't even match Xu Yanyan's sense for detail. But a few rulers of the past and present were known for their cleverness. As the Yuan sect master, Wenren didn't need to consider every detail himself. He just needed to assign the right people to the right places and be able to trust them. If all the doubts pointed to Yeen Hanjiang, then the situation actually became simple. He only needed to trust Yeen Hanjiang to not betray him. Thus, he had called over Yeen Hanjiang and asked who he thought, aside from him, might know Wenren was in possession of 2 books, as well as who in Yuan's sect could cover up their own identity without any traces. Yeen Hanjiang figured out the first question. He had a good memory and remembered that though Wenren was alone with him on the day he obtained the book, there was one person who had kept asking what book the Venerable had obtained and whether a celebration should be prepared. Yeen Hanjiang didn't easily forget anything involving Wenren and even remembered that when Wenren had been reading, Altar Master Yuan had paced back and forth outside his door several times. Altar Master Yuan had only brought up planning a celebration this once. When Wenren returned after the Great Sect War, having increased his power greatly, Altar Master Yuan didn't mention celebrating. Neither had he brought it up after their 30-year seclusion. After Yeen Hanjiang replayed this, Wenren considered the personalities of everyone in Yuan's sect. Projector Shu was sharp. Projector Qiu was straightforward. Altar Master Miao was secretive. Altar Master Zhen was reckless. Altar Master Shi was cowardly, and Altar Master Yuan was cunning. None of them were lacking in ambition, but the ones who could stay undercover for 30 years without acting after obtaining the book were probably only Protector Shu, Altar Master Miao, Altar Master Shi, and Altar Master Yuan. Xu Yanyan had died by Zhengqi's hand in the book. She and Wenzhao were enemies, and the books had all chosen people who appeared to favor the protagonists. So, there was no possibility of her having it. If Altar Master Miao had gotten it, he would have wondered why the Violet Spirit Master was a man and used his goot insects to interrogate him on the location of the 3rd volume. Since he hadn't, he wasn't very suspicious. The remaining suspects were Altar Master Shi and Altar Master Yuan. In order to confirm his conjecture, Wenren had sent a message to Zhongli Qian, asking him what kind of person would be able to change their name and hide in the Yuan sect for centuries. Upon receiving the message, Zhongli Qian was a bit dumbfounded. Why was he, an outsider, being asked to weigh in on Yuan sect's internal affairs? Even so, Zhongli Qian gave the question his proper attention. After listing out multiple possibilities, he arrived at his conclusion. It was most likely to be the person in charge of the register. Thus, Altar Master Yuan was the biggest suspect. Of course, Wenren had no evidence. But did you need evidence to act in Yuan's sect? Did Wenren need to justify his actions before killing 1 or 2 subordinates? However, in order to deal with every threat in one move and obtain the 2nd book smoothly, Wenren had to wait for a time. There were only 2 reasons for the person with the book to lay low for so long. The first was killing Wenren and the second was to increase his own power. Since the 2nd volume took place in the immortal realm, it would probably mention very few opportunities that could be obtained in the cultivation world. The only clue he had was that the Burning Sky Immortal and the Burning Sky Drum shared a name. Since the drum was an immortal artifact, There's no way it could share a name with the Lord of the Immortal Realm without being connected to him. They would have at least shown some respect. So there were only two places for Zhengqi to go. One was to the Blood Hell to help Wenzhao kill Wenren E. The other was to Xuanyuan's sect Forbidden Ground, to take control of the burning sky drum while no one was around. At this point, whether or not Zhengqi was Altar Master Yuan was no longer important. They just needed to be stationed at these two places in order to catch him. That was Wenren E's plan. It was a bit rough, and he might have overlooked things, but for the most part, it was workable. It just so happened that he needed to take this chance to enter the Blood Hell. Since Hanjiang might follow him, he had sent him off to guard the burning sky drum. By the time Hanjiang went to find him, whether Wenren E succeeded or failed, it would all be over. Altar Master Yuan, unaware of their analyses, chuckled and said, "What are you saying, sect leader Yeen? I was worried about the Venerable and wanted to use the burning sky drum to help him. 30 years ago, didn't sect leader Yeen sound it in order to help him defeat 21 righteous sect experts? Do you think I can't manage what you did?" Hanjiang didn't react, eyes on the book in Altar Master Yuan's hand. After all these years, it seems still no one knows Altar Master Yuan's name. Shu Yanyan, Qiu Tongxue, Wenren E, Shi Cong Xin, Miao Qiu Qing, all these names had been on the registers. But where was Altar Master Yuan's? Registers in the cultivation world were different from those in the mortal world. They were magic items upon which one needed to leave a drop of blood while recording their name. That way, if they were to die or meet with a problem in their cultivation, the register would reflect it. Names also couldn't easily be changed, being bestowed by one's parents. Even in ancient times, there were traditions of summoning souls by calling their names, showing that a name was connected to a soul. It would be easy to see that a name on a register didn't match their blood. Why are we discussing such things at a time? We have to hurry to the Blood Hell to find the Venerable. Altar Master Yuan's face dripped with sweat, but inside, he was calm. He knew there was no way to maintain his cover anymore. The fact that Hanjiang was hidden here meant that Wenren E suspected him. Altar Master Yuan didn't really understand why he had been suspected. Even him guessing that Wenren E had a book with Baili Qingmiao as the protagonist had been a fluke. Back then, when Wenren E secluded himself with a book, Altar Master Yuan had been suspicious. Wenren E cultivated the path of slaughter, and each time he raised his realm, it was on the battlefield. When his subordinates offered him secret manuals, he only gave them a glance, and very rarely studied one in seclusion. At the time, Altar Master Yuan really thought Wenren E had obtained some incredible technique and had asked Hanjiang several times to no answer. He had marked it down in his memory, thinking to steal it to read when he had a chance. Yet 30 years ago, while Wenren E and Hanjiang were out to kidnap Zhongli Qian, a book had hit Altar Master Yuan on the head. It was God of Annihilation, Volume 2. On the first page, Altar Master Yuan was filled with glee upon seeing the previous volume's summary, saying that Wenren E had been killed by Wenzhao at the Blood Hell. However, the task he had been assigned at the start of the book was, "Significant deviations have shown up in the events of Volume 1. The probability of Wenren E's death has fallen, and Baili Qingmiao has grown further and further away from Wenzhao. Thus, the one with the most malice toward Wenren E has been selected in order to change the plot, and help Wenzhao kill Wenren E and win Baili Qingmiao's heart." Reading the second volume, Altar Master Yuan found his real name, Zhengqi, appearing in it. Finding out he was one of Wenzhao's supporters, he felt dissatisfied. Altar Master Yuan was even willing to kill Wenren E, so how could he be willing to be one of Wenzhao's subordinates? He decided to let Wenzhao and Wenren E fight each other while he stole the burning sky drum from Hanjiang. Yet, just after he obtained the book, Wenren E had ordered the sect seclude itself for 30 years. 30 years later, when Altar Master Yuan had wanted to act, he'd heard that the Violet Spirit Master was a man. From the Violet Spirit Master, he figured out that the third volume had appeared at roughly the same time as the second. Then the first volume should have also shown up at some time. But that didn't make sense. Wenren had clearly gotten a book many years ago and had already begun changing fate. After thinking it over carefully, Altar Master Yuan realized that at the start, Wenren hadn't harmed Wenzhao at all, instead favoring Baili Qingmiao. He came up with a daring idea. Maybe Wenren possessed two books, and the second one wasn't God of Annihilation, but a different one where Baili Qingmiao was a protagonist. Whether or not his guess was correct, he immediately edited his real name in the registers, as well as having the blood demon knock out Baili Qingmiao to prevent his plan being exposed. He had met the blood demon while secretly observing Wenzhao. They had come to an understanding at the time and made a temporary alliance. Altar Master Yuan didn't get it. He had covered all his bases, so how come Wenren still found him out? Of course, he had said those words just now not in hopes that Hanjiang would believe him and let him off, but to have Hanjiang think he was still trying to bluff and therefore let his guard down. But after a few words, Altar Master Yuan realized it was pointless. Hanjiang was like an emotionless puppet, unmoved by any of his words. His eyes were pinned unerringly on Altar Master Yuan, searching for any weakness, waiting for a chance to strike. Altar Master Yuan sighed. If Sect Leader Yeen doesn't believe me, then I have no choice but to defend myself. He brought out his bonded weapon, the Poison Dragon Whip. In all these years, no one in Xuanyuan's sect had seen it. To everyone else, Altar Master Yuan had always shown himself to be Void Boundary Stage, the weakest among the Protectors and Altar Masters. He had harmed his foundation early in his cultivation and was unable to reach Mahayana. In the book, after meeting Wenzhao and becoming one of his companions, Wenzhao had helped him find an opportunity and ascend to Mahayana. He had found many clues in the second volume and stole many opportunities 30 years ago, healing his old injury and rising to Mahayana. Without sufficient power, he wouldn't have dared to use the burning sky drum anyway. With the lash of the Poison Dragon Whip, poisonous chi suffused the spiritual energy surrounding him. Ordinary poisons had no effect on cultivators, but Altar Master Yuan's poison was extremely potent. The longer you were affected, the more you would be weakened. Cultivators had to take in natural spiritual energy in battle, so as they fought, Hanjiang's strength would be diminished. Altar Master Yuan's goal was to drag out the battle. He tossed out talismans, spiritual stones, single-use magical items, and quick arrays one after another, trying to delay Hanjiang and force him to absorb spiritual energy. Hanjiang was only at Void Boundary, not much stronger than Altar Master Yuan, but he was a sword cultivator. Their attacks were especially fearsome, and they had the strongest combat powers in their realm. But his weakness was someone who fought a battle of attrition like Altar Master Yuan. Each of the sword cultivators' attacks expended a large amount of spiritual energy, so they instinctively absorbed natural spiritual energy in battle. Hanjiang was a reckless fighter to begin with. Even if he knew the spiritual energy was poisoned, it was impossible for him to not absorb it. He failed to defeat Altar Master Yuan within his first 10 moves. Growing anxious, he took even more spiritual energy into his dantian. His movements slowed down slightly. In a battle between experts, even a moment's carelessness would be an opening. Altar Master Yuan took his chance and swung the Poison Dragon Whip, its spiked tip lashing across Hanjiang's body. Hanjiang had made no attempt to avoid it. When he was attacking, Altar Master Yuan wouldn't be able to properly defend himself. Hanjiang had also been waiting for his chance. At the moment the Poison Dragon Whip hit him, Hanjiang thrust his sword with all his spiritual essence behind it. The single strike held earth-shattering power, and even a newly ascended immortal would be seriously injured by it. Yet, Altar Master Yuan was prepared. He patted his chest, and a streak of golden light flashed forth. a golden armor appeared in mid-air, blocking Yin Hanjiang's sword. When Wenren sent you here alone, did he really think you could defeat me? Master Yuan chuckled sadly. His body morphed, changing from a short and plump man to a tall, thin, and plain-looking youth. A cultivator's appearance wouldn't change after nascent soul, but demonic cultivators naturally had countless ways to reshape their bodies. Master Yuan had grown accustomed to using two identities, one tall and thin, and one short and plump, not for any particular reason, just as a precaution. In Volume 2, Wenzhao and Baili Qingmiao had ascended first. Later, their friends had followed them and gave Wenzhao the rundown on what had happened in the cultivation world. Using their accounts, Master Yuan had beaten the Violet Spirit Master to the golden immortal armor that was meant for her. Wearing it, he had managed to block Yin Hanjiang's strike. Even if Yin Hanjiang was at Mahayana, how would he be able to pierce the armor the author had created for the protagonist's main wife? Master Yuan struck without hesitation. Protected by the armor, he lashed his whip again and again across Yin Hanjiang's body. With the poison entering his body, Yin Hanjiang felt cold emanating from his dantian and was unable to summon a hint of spiritual energy. Seeing Yin Hanjiang collapse on the ground, unmoving, Master Yuan began laughing. Sect Leader Yeen, it's too bad that, for all your loyalty to Wenren E, you'll be dying before him. After I deal with you, I'll be heading to the blood hell to enjoy Wenren E's last moments. While he spoke, his hand never stopped. Master Yuan was an extremely cautious man, and obviously wouldn't give Yin Hanjiang any chance to stand up. The poison dragon whip was nearly 30 meters long, so Master Yuan stood as far away as possible. The army-crushing sword clattered to the ground. Yin Hanjiang was no longer capable of flying on it. He heard Master Yuan say that his Venerable would die soon as well, and suddenly stopped struggling, or moving at all. What's this? Have you dropped dead, or are you pretending? Master Yuan wasn't about to fall for any tricks. He wouldn't stop attacking until he had Yin Hanjiang's soul in his hands. At Master Yuan's command, the poison dragon whip transformed into a shadowy serpent. It dove at Yin Hanjiang, about to rip his soul out of his body. At the moment the serpent was about to sink its fangs into Yin Hanjiang's neck, a far-off drumbeat sounded. The whip stilled, blocked by some force. What happened? Master Yuan said, feeling anxious for no discernible reason. He lashed his whip at Yin Hanjiang again, but the army-crushing sword, which had been sitting silently on the ground, lunged up and pierced through the whip. It had changed its shape, no longer a long sword, but a vicious-looking triangular spike. It was no longer the army-crushing sword, but the army-crushing spike. Bong! Bong! 2 drumbeats sounded. Yin Hanjiang, who had been lying on the ground and unable to move, stood up. At some point, he had put on a ghost mask. Master Yuan backed up several steps, powering the golden armor with his spiritual energy as he frantically called the poison dragon whip back. Seeing that the situation had reversed, he was already planning his escape. A Mahayana cultivator wasn't easy to kill, even if he couldn't win. If he put his efforts toward escaping, he could manage that. Boom! 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 The drumbeats grew louder. A huge drum rose out of the ravine, hovering behind Yin Hanjiang. Beneath the mask, Yin Hanjiang's expression couldn't be seen. He seemed to no longer be affected by the poison. In a flash, he appeared next to the army-crushing spike, grabbing the whip with one hand. With a yank, he managed to pull Master Yuan's bonded weapon out of his grasp. Yin Hanjiang's eyes showed a heartless smile underneath the mask. With a wave of his hand, he beat the whip against the burning sky drum. Boom! This was hardly a blow against the drum. Yin Hanjiang was using Master Yuan's bonded weapon in order to attack his soul. Seeing the situation was bad, Master Yuan instantly severed his connection to his bonded weapon. Even if it injured him, it was better to escape. Yet as he dropped the poison dragon whip and tried to run away, countless spider lilies blossomed, blanketing his retreat path. Oh my! Xu Yanyan's face, more beautiful than 100 blooms, appeared from within the lilies. She said with a laugh, That terrified me. I thought sect leader Yeen wouldn't be able to beat you. If that had happened, then I would have had to betray the Venerable. She had been hiding all this time, already planning to support Altar Master Yuan if he won, and Yin Hanjiang if he did. Since you're a Mahayana cultivator, I don't dare to touch you. But now that you're weakened from having to sever your connection to your bonded weapon, how can I miss this chance? Hidden beneath Xu Yanyan's beautiful appearance was her usual ruthless manner of action. The spider lily stamens trapped Altar Master Yuan within them. The stamens drank blood, while the petals sucked away spiritual energy. Xu Yanyan stood amidst the fields of flowers, smiling as she watched Altar Master Yuan struggle, like an alluring and carnivorous bloom. Good thing sect leader Yeen won, or I would have had to embarrass myself. She took a glance at Altar Master Yuan's completely unremarkable face and shook her head. If I kiss up to someone, they at least have to be good-looking. As she spoke, Altar Master Yuan's body completely vanished. The soul of a Mahayana cultivator flew out, trying to make one last stand. Before it had the chance, a spike blade stabbed into it. 3 streaks of light split Altar Master Yuan's soul apart. Just like that, a Mahayana cultivator perished, body and soul. The ghost mask was still on his face. Yin Hanjiang picked up the book of God of Annihilation, Volume 2, which Altar Master Yuan had never had the chance to put away. He flipped it open and immediately saw the beginning summary. Wenzhao killed Wenren E at the Blood Hell, finally avenging the deaths of his family and reclaiming his Sheen-yeh. The couple ascended together to the immortal realm, becoming legends in the cultivation world. The eyes underneath the mask burned red. Chapter 49. This Venerable forbids you. After leaving Xuanyuan's sect, Wenren E began strolling openly in public. He wanted the righteous cultivators to know where he was, to make it easier for them to set up a trap for him. He didn't have to wait long. While he sat in a restaurant at the foot of Xuanyuan's sect's mountain, drinking wine, he heard someone near him speak in a volume like they were afraid he wouldn't hear. I heard that the murderer of those 17 experts was actually the Xuanyuan sect's Wenren E. He's now kidnapped Baili Qingmiao of Shangqing's sect and is headed for the Blood Hell. Baili Qingmiao? Is she powerful? Why would he kidnap her? Another person asked in the same tone. Don't you know? She reached body unity in less than a century. Wenren E kills cultivators who are body unity or above. Since her aptitudes are so good, why would he pass her up? The first person said empathetically. Who did you say kidnapped Baili Qingmiao? Wenren E said. Of course, the blood demon Wenren. The person accidentally turned his head and cried out in shock. Wenren E! His companion quickly shrank into a corner. Don't kill me! I'm only at core formation. I wouldn't even be a snack for you. There's no use consuming me. Okay. Wenren E, with a wave of his sleeve, beat them both black and blue out of formality, then set off for the Blood Hell. At the same time, Baili Qingmiao opened her eyes. She had been trapped at the back mountains of Shangqing's sect for the past 2 months, and upon opening her eyes, found herself tied up in a strange and terrifying place. In the face of danger, she had protected her disciple first and foremost, and now endured the pain in her dantian as she shook Su Huai awake. Through gritted teeth, she said, Disciple, wake up! We have to get out of here! Su Huai blearily opened his eyes. Looking around, he saw the dusky sky above and the dark crimson sea below him and exclaimed, What is this place? I'm not sure, Baili Qingmiao said, but we have to climb up. They were strung up by a rope around their waists, dangling off the edge of a cliff with the sea below them. The environment was very strange. Several times she tried to fly up the cliff, but to no avail. Her spiritual energy wasn't being suppressed. She simply couldn't fly. An inexhaustible attractive force came from below, sucking in the surrounding spiritual energy. To get to the top of the cliff, they would have to climb. Baili Qingmiao should have been scared, but her heart was still. Zhongli Qian was probably steadying her emotions. It was going to be okay, Baili Qingmiao told herself. She set her sights on a jutting rock at her top left, preparing to grab it and start climbing. As the master, she had to go first and find a safe path for her disciple. The moment her palm touched the stone, she felt a burning pain eating away at her flesh. She jerked her hand back, seeing that the fair skin of her palm had been blackened, blisters of blood continually forming and bursting within it. Master! Seeing Baili Qingmiao injured, Su Huai frantically took out a medicinal pill for her to swallow. Whoever had hung them here was rather strange. Their spiritual energy hadn't been sealed, and their storage items hadn't been taken away. They had only been strung up. After taking the pill, Baili Qingmiao felt a lot better. She looked up, but couldn't see anyone around. Where on earth are we? We were just at Shangqing sect, so how come we're suddenly here? Baili Qingmiao said, holding her head. Has something happened to Shangqing sect? Su Huai really wanted to whack his master on the head and knocked her tendency to see the best in everyone out of her brain. He said furiously, Mr. Jong-lee was staying at Shangqing sect as a guest. If something happened at the sect, do you think he would just sit back and let you be taken away? It's obvious that he's fine right now. So he either doesn't know what happened to you or can't do anything about it. With him there and the Shangqing sect's wards, do you think the sect could have been attacked? Then what happened? Truly, Baili Qingmiao had already arrived at the answer. She just didn't want to believe it. What could it have been? Before you got knocked out, who was the last person you saw? Su Huai nearly yelled. It was her Shuxiong. Baili Qingmiao had long since remembered. Shuxiong had come to see her. Then he had lost consciousness and woken up in this place. It's obvious that Shangqing sect has strung us up here for some purpose, Su Huai said. Don't we look like bait on a fishhook right now? As a ghost cultivator, he had often used bait to lure in ordinary people. This scene that he had opened his eyes to was totally familiar. What does the sect want from me? Baili Qingmiao said, still disbelieving. What else? Su Huai yelled. Remember what they wanted you to do before now? That you refused? That's obviously what they're after. How come his master was such an idiot? Baili Qingmiao shook her head. It wasn't that she hadn't realized this either. She just hadn't wanted to believe. The Shangqing sect wanted her to lure out Master Qingxue, and she had refused, thus being locked up in the mountains. Shuxiong had begged her to reconsider once, and she hadn't listened. The next time he came, he had knocked her unconscious. Using their own disciples to lure out demonic cultivators, Su Huai said furiously. How can Shangqing sect still call themselves the righteous path? They're just a bunch of underhanded crooks. He had raised his voice, as well as used spiritual energy to make it travel further. He wanted to make sure the people lying in wait at the top of the cliff heard him. At the cliff top, several cultivators had already set up a heavenly net in order to eradicate the blood demon. Hearing a junior like Su Huai yell at them, some people's faces turned red, but no one dared make a sound. It was an elder of the Nanguo clan, who had a grudge against Baili Qingmiao and her companions, who stood up and walked over to the cliff's edge. What's the problem with sacrificing a few disciples in order to slay a demon? He said. It's you, old fart, Su Huai said. You Nanguos are still resentful because my martial ancestor exposed your evil deeds. So now you want to dispose of all of us who attended that banquet, huh? The Shangqing sect has sunk so low they're rubbing elbows with the Nanguo clan? Psh, disgusting. I'm ashamed to be a disciple of the Shangqing sect. He was a ghost cultivator, one who had often hung out in marketplaces to eat wandering spirits. If he had to, he could cuss like a hoodlum, and there wasn't anything he wouldn't say. He was about to die anyway, so Su Huai didn't hold anything back, cursing out the Shang-Qing sect and Nangua clan with all he had. Baili Qingmiao was stupefied at the coarseness of his language and the sheer variety of his insults. Her disciple had always been so obedient, and even if he was occasionally a bit rebellious, he never meant any harm by it. Plus, he had studied literature under Zhongli Qian for all that time. She had never heard him cuss before, so she got quite a shock today. She quickly said, "If Master Zhongli heard you talk like this..." Su Huai stiffened. His language immediately became formal, though he continued his insults, simply without the swearing. His language is still as varied as before, words like cowards, scoundrels, and petty crooks coming out of his mouth. Baili Qingmiao didn't get how he couldn't memorize poetry, but could memorize so many ways of cursing people. "Pah! Old farts! Your actions are lower than those of the demonic sects!" Su Huai yelled. The righteous cultivators pretended they couldn't hear him. The Nangua elder couldn't beat him in insulting, and after pointing a trembling finger at Su Huai and calling him a vulgar brat, backed off. Su Huai yelled until he was hoarse, but no one responded. He said to Baili Qingmiao, "Your sect's no good, and your Shushong's even worse. Stop liking him." I mean, for real. Baili Qingmiao said faintly, "Shushong is unable to disobey the sect's orders." Su Huai was on the verge of disrespecting his master. "When the Shang-Qing sect wanted you to deceive Qiu Tongxue, you were willing to be confined rather than agree. How come when Shang-Qing sect wants to use you as bait, Wenzhao is powerless to refuse?" Baili Qingmiao was speechless. "Ha! Good one, disciple." Nothing will get through to the MC's idiot brain unless someone cusses her out first. Love interest number 5 is doing good. In the original version, he was killed by Wenzhao before his identity could be revealed, and he was basically invisible. Now, after the revision, we find out he actually has quite a mouth? One moment, Baili Qingmiao is in reflection in the mountains. The next, she woke up here. I thought I missed a few thousand words. Now that it's all explained, turns out it's Wenzhao being shameless, forcing MC to do something she doesn't want while acting like it's for her own good. In order to stay on top of developments at all times, Wenren E was reading his book while rushing to the blood hell. After Baili Qingmiao woke, abusive romance had changed, though God of Annihilation remained the same. Wenzhao was probably still under the control of Blood Demon. He put away the book and arrived at the blood hell. Acting like he was unaware of the ambush, he charged forward and appeared before Baili Qingmiao. Baili Qingmiao was currently dejectedly accepting her disciple's insults when someone appeared before her. After a moment, she saw it was Wenren E and exclaimed, "Senior Wenren, why are you here?" "This Venerable has told you that he owes you a debt," Wenren E said. He was also unable to fly above the blood hell. Feeling the sea's relentless gravity, he stuck a spear into the cliff face, standing on its shaft and holding Baili Qingmiao. "Hold on tight, you two," he said. "I'll take you to the top." "Lord, there's an ambush at the top!" Su Huai had no time to say more. A golden net appeared above them. 9 experts appeared in the sky. Above them was the Shang-Qing sect master, who had not been awake for long at this point. Wenren E chuckled. Even the righteous sects will resort to such underhanded methods. But if you plan to kill this Venerable, shouldn't you send out a few more people? What good will 9 do? This Venerable remembers now. During the Great Sect War, I killed most of your experts, so now you can't even muster up 10 people. He threw back his head in laughter. "Rest assured," he told Baili Qingmiao, "this handful of people can't threaten this Venerable." "Senior Wenren, all I did was help you find the Snowflame and the Shadowed Mountain meteorite," Baili Qingmiao said, tears staining her cheeks as she looked at Wenren E. "You don't have to face danger for me." "This Venerable isn't here to save you," Wenren E said coldly. "I simply want you to realize something." Wenren E felt no fear in facing 9 experts. He had lots more magic weapons on him beside the 7-killing halberd, so he took out a pair of swords, using them to first cut Baili Qingmiao and Su Huai's rope, then sticking them in the cliff face, leaping up with them as footholds. The cliffs surrounding the blood hell were constantly subject to its chaos and demonic energy and were highly corrosive. Even Wenren didn't dare to directly touch them. He could only create footholds like this in order to get to the top. Even first-rate magic items would dissolve into blood with a few minutes of contact with the cliff face. Baili Qingmiao saw that the spear and twin swords had already dissolved. Thinking back to her own hand, she gulped, breaking out in a cold sweat. Had her Shushiong known how dangerous this place was when he had brought her here? Baili Qingmiao wondered in bewilderment. Fortunately, Wenren had plenty of weapons on him. Sticking knives, spears, and swords into the cliff face, they made it to the top, near the net, in just a few hops. Merely a heavenly net array, Wenren said, glancing at the net. He raised the 7-killing halberd, and with a swing, the power of the stars slashed through the golden net. With Baili Qingmiao in hand, he leapt up, nearly free of the net. The 9 experts' attacks were powerless to touch him, unable to even slow his progress. At that moment, Wenzhao appeared. His eyes were cold. Seeing the way Wenren protected Baili Qingmiao, his eyes gleamed, and he raised the sword, stabbing it toward Baili Qingmiao's heart. Wenren knew this wasn't Wenzhao, but the blood demon elder. But it was fine. Seeing this, Baili Qingmiao's feelings toward him should truly die. Wenren turned to shield Baili Qingmiao, taking the blade in his back. Seeing her Shuxiong heartlessly attack her, Baili Qingmiao was stunned. The blood demon elder's consciousness retreated, leaving Wenzhao in charge. Cold-blooded. Oh, man. Wenzhao looked down at his hands and seemed to realize what he had just done. Shimei, it wasn't me, he cried. I didn't do it. The blade had been imbued with the blood demon's power and was able to damage the blood array Wenren had carved on his soul. A blood cultivator understood blood cultivation the best, so only the blood demon could know how to destroy Wenren-E's power. The exit was right before his eyes, but Wenren had been badly injured. Holding Baili Qingmiao and Su Huai in one hand as he wielded his halberd to block the 9 experts' attacks with the other, he flung the 2 into the sky, shouting, "Catch them!" A figure in the sky snatched the 2 out of the air. Qiu Tongxue had arrived just in time. "Master Qingxue!" Baili Qingmiao had sustained too many shocks today and sobbed as she clutched Qiu Tongxue's robes. "Please, go save Senior Wenren! Please!" Too late. Qiu Tongxue stood in the sky, quietly watching the scene below. Inside the golden net, 9 different magical weapons had pierced through Wenren-E's body. All the while, the sword stuck in his back continually destroyed his blood marks. Even if Wenren-E wanted to dissolve everyone around him into blood and absorb their powers to heal himself, he couldn't do it. Feeling his blood qi being drained, Wenren-E burst out in laughter. He knew the blood demon would have a way to kill a blood cultivator. Since his blood marks had been broken, the plan he had made with Zhongli Qian had not been in vain. The plan had 3 goals. The first was to have Baili Qingmiao see Wenzhao attacking her with her own eyes, and thus completely let go of him. The second was to take advantage of the blood demon and Sun Zhengqi's cooperation in order to expose the traitor and obtain the 2nd volume. At the same time, he could destroy the blood marks on his body, freeing himself from his bloodlust. The third was to force the blood demon into action. Until now, he had been suppressed by Wenzhao and hadn't dared to consume cultivators to restore his power, so the righteous sects had no way of discovering him. Now that he had acted directly, the sects might be confused for a time, but they would figure it out eventually. And previously, he could blame the deaths of those 17 experts on Wenren-E, but after Wenren-E died, could the blood demon restrain himself from consuming more people? He couldn't. After a blood cultivator started killing, they wouldn't be able to stop. In the book, the blood demon had waited until the divine realm to take Wenzhao's body, and hadn't done anything before then. This time around, things were different. He wouldn't be able to hold out until the divine realm. Everything was going according to plan. The remaining question was whether he could use the chaos energy within the blood hell to restore himself. With his body impelled by weapons and the 9 experts endlessly throwing talismans, Wenren fell toward the sea of blood. When it came to absorbing primordial chaos energy, Wenren had some confidence due to something he'd realized from the 3rd volume. Given some time, he would be able to regain his strength. Everything was going perfectly, Wenren thought. Then he suddenly heard a desperate cry. Venerable! Oh, God. Wenren eyes flew open. In the instant before he fell into the sea, he saw a masked man charging through the heavenly net array, plunging toward the blood hell after him. Beneath the mask was Hanjiang's burning red eyes. Wenren suddenly remembered something he had once said. If this Venerable is gone, you can follow me. Hanjiang was a single-minded person. If Wenren allowed something, he would carry it out. No, Wenren shouted as Hanjiang drew closer to him. This Venerable forbids you. With a thought from Wenren his defensive robe flew over and wrapped around Hanjiang. At the moment he fell into the waters, Wenren lifted his hand and thrust his palm at the robe with all his strength, shoving Hanjiang back up the cliff. Hanjiang had been pushed back from the sea of blood. He could only watch as his Venerable, his body covered with wounds, fell into the most hellish place in this realm. A pained cry echoed across the blood hell. If Polis fell, Alcade would go mad. Chapter 50. Nowhere to be found. Wenren hadn't wanted to hide his plan from Hanjiang. He just wasn't sure whether or not it would succeed. Not everyone was capable of reinventing themselves. Wenren may have had some idea of what awaited him in the blood hell, but he was only half certain. Both books said that Wenren died in the blood hell. This time, he came to face death of his own accord. He was defying heaven, taking his own life back from fate. If he was destined to die, then he wouldn't keep it from Hanjiang. Whether Hanjiang chose to die with him or live on after knowing would depend on him. Wenren wouldn't force his choice. On the other hand, if he survived, that would be the best outcome. But it would take some time for his survival to be determined, and Wenren couldn't be certain what Hanjiang would do in this time. He feared that, not knowing Wenren status, Hanjiang would enter the blood hell. Wenren had a chance of survival in the blood hell, but Hanjiang would certainly die. So he figured out a plan to cover all his bases. Send Hanjiang to battle Altar Master Yuan. Hanjiang's strength was about equal to Altar Master Yuan's. Even if Altar Master Yuan had gotten some advantages from the 2nd volume, gaining an edge over Hanjiang wouldn't lose with Shu Yanyan backing him up. Wenren understood Shu Yanyan. She would certainly choose the side of the most attractive person. Okay. Hanjiang should be injured after his battle with Altar Master Yuan, and be unable to recover in such a short time. Wenren had already made a deal with Zhongli Qian in exchange for Baili Qingmiao's safety. Zhongli Qian would be heading to Xuanyuan's sect to hold Hanjiang back while he was injured, telling him Wenren plan and convincing him to wait. Hanjiang's injury should have taken a few years to heal. After a few years, whether Wenren survived or failed would have been decided. By that time, if Wenren still hadn't returned, Zhongli Qian wouldn't prevent Hanjiang from entering the blood hell. Wenren hadn't considered the possibility that Hanjiang would far surpass Altar Master Yuan's strength and score a crushing victory and then reach the blood hell in practically the blink of an eye. Hanjiang's light flash wasn't proficient, and typically it would take him a full day to reach the blood hell on his sword. Who would have imagined that he could cross the entire continent in less than 10 minutes? The last sound that Wenren heard was Hanjiang's despairing cry. As he fell into the sea, he thought, this really was the worst possible outcome. It seemed that Wenren E's death and Hanjiang's madness were predestined, impossible to change. Hanjiang saw Wenren E fall into the waters. Not even a splash was lifted, as if his entire body had been swallowed and dissolved in an instant. He was no longer able to control his own darker nature. He wished to follow, but his Venerable had forbidden him. He clutched tight to the black and gold robe wrapped around him. His burning red eyes swept across the 9 experts surrounding him, and Wenzhao, who was currently fighting over Baili Qingmiao with Qiu Tongxue. He slowly opened his mouth, the taste of blood filling it. "Righteous cultivators, die!" As he spoke, a streak of silver cut through the air. The army-crushing spike pierced into the Nangua elder's body. He had not even had a chance to react. These flesh injuries were easy to heal, though. The elder swallowed a pill, circulating his spiritual essence, about to force out the blade. Suddenly, the point of the triangular blade emitted 3 streaks of harsh light. The Nangua elder's body was split into 3 parts, killed instantly. His soul fled, but a huge drum appeared in the sky. Somehow, Hanjiang was now kneeling on its surface. He smacked a palm down on the drum. Boom! The drumbeat roused the demonic and immortal energy within it. The Nangua elder's soul was shredded apart under the pressure of the sound, its remnants being absorbed into the drum. "That's an immortal artifact! A cultivator of the mortal realm can use an immortal artifact! Retreat!" The Shanqing sect master was experienced and made his decision quickly. "A heavenly tribulation is imminent. With it obstructing him, we'll have a chance." He'd barely finished talking when a peal of heavenly thunder struck toward Hanjiang. Using an immortal artifact in the mortal world violated the laws of the 3 realms, so heaven would now enact judgment on Hanjiang. "But Sheen-yeh is still in the hands of the demonic sect!" Wenzhao cried. "There's no time. Let's go." The sect master grabbed Wenzhao, flying back to the sect. Shanqing sect's wards were supported by an immortal artifact, so they couldn't be broken easily. The remaining 8 experts fled in 8 other directions. Hanjiang had already memorized their faces. His first target was Wenzhao at Shanqing sect. The heavenly tribulation gathered overhead, yet Hanjiang made no attempt to avoid it. Using the burning sky drum, he blocked the first lightning strike head-on. With a wave of his hand, the army-crushing spike returned to his grip. Hanjiang was hot on Wenzhao's and the sect master's heels as he pursued them back to Shanqing sect. "How is he so fast? Doesn't he care about the heavenly lightning?" the sect master exclaimed. When Hanjiang was just on the verge of catching up to Wenzhao, who had fallen a step behind, a second bolt of lightning, dozens of meters in width, struck and caused him to hesitate. Hanjiang stood within the lightning, seeming not to feel pain. He raised his head to look at the ever-thickening clouds gathering above. If he didn't deal with the tribulation, he would never catch up to them. He raised both hands. An endless supply of natural spiritual energy gathered in his palms, slowly forming into 2 circulating collections of qi, in the shapes of 2 drumsticks. He let go of them, using hand signs to manipulate them as they beat the drum. Boom, 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 boom! Amidst the fierce drumming, red and gold flames rose from the drum's surface. The fire gave off pure golden rays of light. It wasn't mortal fire, but the celestial flame of the immortal realm which had been hidden within the drum for hundreds of thousands of years. The flames transformed into a golden dragon, charging towards the heavens to meet the lightning, giving off blinding radiance. Waves of gold light rippled across the sky. The clouds dispersed upon a single strike from the dragon, and rain gradually began to fall. The dragon returned to within the drum. Hanjiang felt like his internal organs were being shredded. He was using Mahayana stage power to forcibly activate the burning sky drum, and each move he made overtaxed his strength. It wasn't enough. He wiped blood from his chin and continued his pursuit in the direction of Shanqing sect. The burning sky drum's light flash was exceptionally fast and soon caught up with the two. Seeing Hanjiang approach, the sect master grabbed Wenzhao and dove behind the Shanqing sect array. The array closed before Hanjiang could reach it, stopping him from continuing. Hanjiang, eyes red, glared at Wenzhao and the sect master from the other side of the array. He knew the true mastermind who had plotted against his venerable was the blood demon, right inside Wenzhao's body. He pointed to Wenzhao. "Come out!" Wenzhao gripped his sword. Hanjiang, Wenren E was a blood demon. The presence of a demon threatens the entire world. This isn't a matter pertaining to only the righteous sects. His death helps you too. Don't— Shut up! With a hand sign, Hanjiang beat the drum with a force that shook everyone's souls. Pressure waves assaulted the Shanqing sect's wards. The array trembled, on the brink of collapse. Dong! The deep sounds of a bell resonated out. It was the Shanqing sect's immortal artifact, the Moon Pool Bell. Elder Qinye, seeing the desperate situation, had activated the bell to counter the burning sky drum. They were both top-grade immortal artifacts, and though the burning sky drum actually outmatched the Moon Pool Bell, Hanjiang had no longer had the strength to use it. The 10th drumbeat was cancelled out by the bell's ring. Hanjiang, at his limits, could not continue. He glared at Wenzhao through the ghost mask, clutching Wenren E's robe to his chest. He had plenty of enemies and plenty of time. Holding the army-crushing spike, he pointed at the sect master and Wenzhao. "I want the lives of these two. I'm unable to stop you today, but I don't believe you can hide in there for your whole life. I, Hanjiang, swear to refine your bodies into lamp oil, to light an ever-burning lamp for my venerable." He thrust his blade viciously at the barrier, though the Moon Pool Bell blocked it. Retrieving the burning sky drum, Hanjiang departed in a streak of light. Seeing him disappear, the Shanqing sect master finally let out a breath. With a bitter look on his face, he said, "We've just eliminated Wenren E when now this Hanjiang appears. His mind is in disarray, and he is already showing signs of deviation." After relaxing a moment, he suddenly remembered something. "We must go check on Qingyue Shidi." He took Wenzhao and some disciples who could still move and ran toward the Moon Pool Bell. Qingyue was half kneeling before the bell, his hair white, all his spiritual essence expended. He lifted his head, his formerly youthful face now filled with wrinkles. "It seems heaven was on our side," he murmured. "If he had struck one more time, I would have had no power to activate the Moon Pool Bell again." "Shidi!" The sect master supported Elder Qingyue. Seeing his haggard face, he knew Qingyue's foundation had been damaged and he would never be able to regain his former strength. Just who was this Hanjiang? How was he so strong? They had seen no such displays of power from him in the Great Sect War. Hanjiang, yeah, that was 30 years ago. Okay, sorry. Hanjiang had planned to fly to the Blood Hell, but halfway in the journey, his strength failed him and he fell from the air. He landed heavily on a snowdrift, not knowing where he was. He picked himself up from the snowdrift, taking off his mask. After such fierce fighting, the ordinary mask was already covered with cracks. He glanced at it, then smiled bitterly. His venerable was gone. There was no need for him to wear a mask anymore. He had used the mask to hide his expression when he could not suppress his feelings. The person he wanted to hide them from was no longer here, so there was no more use. After replacing the mask in his storage belt, Hanjiang sat in the snow, staring at his surroundings in a daze. Finally, he recognized it. So it's the 1,000-mile ice plains. 30 years later, after Wenren E had messed it up twice, it no longer extended for 1,000 li around. Only the area in 100 li would be covered with snow in winter, which melted in the spring as flowers bloomed. Every direction was a boundless expanse of white. Hanjiang seemed to see a figure in the distance, beckoning him. He approached and found it was his venerable. His Venerable exposed a wrist, slashing it open and extending it to Yeen Hanjiang. His cold voice held an undercurrent of warmth. "Your body is chilled and can't withstand the ice planes. If you drink my blood, it can sustain you for a few days." Yeen Hanjiang blinked at him, then bowed his head obediently, dipping his mouth towards the cut, but he only tasted the bitter wind. Wenren E, who had been looking at him warmly, had vanished. It was an illusion. Yeen Hanjiang covered his face. He heard another voice near him. "This is the snow flame. If you absorb it, it will dispel the Yeen energy within your body." He dropped his head, looking around. It seemed each snowflake had transformed into Wenren E, surrounding him on all sides. He reached out a hand, but they dissipated back into snowflakes, being blown away by the wind. All false. They were all illusions caused by his inner demons. Only this one was real. Yeen Hanjiang hugged Wenren E's robe to his chest, curling up in the snow, closing his eyes and covering his ears, not wanting to see or hear. He didn't dare open his eyes, lest he see his Venerable everywhere. He only shrank into the snow, shivering in the cold, gradually taking in spiritual energy in order to heal his wounds. He didn't know how long he slept in the snow. Eventually, the snow melted, spring came, and flowers bloomed. Yeen Hanjiang awoke from the ice that had been covering him. After a bit of walking, he came upon a blossoming apricot tree. Wenren E seemed to be sitting in the tree, extending a hand to him. Yeen Hanjiang also reached out, trying to snatch his hand, but didn't touch him. He only grabbed an apricot flower. Fake. Yeen Hanjiang clenched his fist. The fragile flower was crushed in his palm. He opened his hand and let the fragments of that flower blow away in the wind. In the scattering petals, he seemed to see Wenren E's figure, leaving him. Also fake. Yeen Hanjiang told himself to not look or listen. It was all the delusions of his inner demons and couldn't be believed. He had unfinished business and couldn't be overcome by his inner demons. Step by step, Yeen Hanjiang walked out of the ice plains, being warmed by spring winds. It no longer resembled the place where he and his Venerable had come before, and his Venerable was no longer here. In heaven or the underworld, he was nowhere to be found. Chapter 51. Inconstant Hearts. Yeen Hanjiang had been buried in the snow for over 3 months, but not managed to regain much spiritual essence. He had drained it using the burning sky drum to fend off the heavenly tribulation. If he didn't care about the mortals living near the ice plains and absorbed all the spiritual energy around, he could recover most of the way, but he refused to. He flew slowly, reaching the blood hell after half a month. He had found out several weeks ago during the battle here that he could absorb the primordial chaos energy. This was the best place for him to recover his strength. Slowly, he climbed to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The expanse of crimson made him dizzy, and he sat weakly atop the cliff. In his eyes, there were countless Wenren E's jumping downward, beckoning warmly for Yeen Hanjiang to follow them. "Without sect leader Yeen, this Venerable is quite lonely," one said, sitting by his side. "Didn't you swear to follow this Venerable throughout every life?" Yeen Hanjiang gazed at Wenren E's attentive expression and shook his head. "Venerable, I want to follow you, but I can't. You forbade me." "This Venerable is allowing you now," Wenren E said. "This subordinate has unfinished business," Yeen Hanjiang said quietly. He took out the ghost mask, now riddled with cracks. Gazing down at it, he seemed to be looking at his old self. The Wenren E at his side looked on with him. "Venerable, do you still remember this mask?" Yeen Hanjiang asked. Naturally, he didn't answer. He was only a creation of Yeen Hanjiang's imagination. "You thought the subordinate was loyal, right? I may not have been a gentleman like Zhongli Qian, but at least I was open and honest, right?" Yeen Hanjiang ran a hand over the cracks in his mask. His voice was strained. "But it wasn't true." His family had been slaughtered at 5. He had lain in a corpse pile for days. He had been picked up by Wenren, then abandoned for a decade. How could he be open and honest? How could he not hold resentment? Before he turned 18, Yeen Hanjiang had lived a harsh life. He knew he'd been saved by a powerful person, whom he'd had very little contact with. That person wanted him to become a sword cultivator, and he understood that he had to win that person's favor if he wanted to survive. So he dedicated himself to practicing the sword. But Yeen Hanjiang had never said that he liked the sword. Before he turned 18, he wanted to survive and become stronger, so he did all he could to win that man's favor. When he turned 18, he returned to his village, saw the man who had saved him, and found out his name was Wenren E. While he watched quietly at the sidelines as Wenren E led his troops to protect the village, longing, admiration, and worship filled his heart. Yeen Hanjiang wished to be someone like Wenren E, but he could not. After 18 years, his temperament was already formed. He would always be a dark and twisted person. Wenren E didn't know that the enemy troops who had fled his battles had all been hunted down by Yeen Hanjiang, one by one, and stabbed to death with triangular blades. He had already found the corpse pile where his family members were now all bones, impossible to recognize. He had buried them and put up steels, then dragged the enemy tribesmen' corpses before the graves, setting them alight one by one, illuminating the graveyard. Yeen Hanjiang's face was shadowy in the firelight. The warmth of the flames didn't reach him. After Wenren E successfully drove out the enemy tribe, he drank with his surviving soldiers. Yeen Hanjiang hid in a corner, watching him. After everyone around Wenren E had passed out and Wenren E, with his spiritual energy sealed, was also drunk, he looked over to the only person still upright and dragged him over to drink with. Yeen Hanjiang's face turned red after taking only a sip from Wenren E's bowl. He fled in embarrassment, taking a mask from Wenren E's belt in order to cover his face. It was a custom in the little border town. After battles, they wore the ghost masks to pray, to prevent the evil spirits of the enemy soldiers from harming them. During the festivities, Wenren E had also worn the mask and prayed. Yeen Hanjiang felt at ease after putting on the mask. With it, no one could see his expression, and he no longer had to act proper. He hid the mask, and whenever he could no longer keep up the act, he would secretly put it on for a moment. After pretending for so long, he had fooled himself into thinking he really was someone who lived up to his Venerable's expectations. Only the presence of this mask reminded Yeen Hanjiang that it was a lie. There was no need to pretend now. The person he wanted to fool was gone. Yeen Hanjiang released his hand. The crack-riddled mask fell into the sea of blood, dissolving into nothing. He paid no attention to the illusions by his side. He called out the burning sky drum, set up a protective array, and sat cross-legged on its surface, meditating. The people of Xuanyuan sect had always thought the burning sky drum was a first-grade immortal artifact. It wasn't. It was a divine artifact. Yeen Hanjiang hadn't known himself. Despite having cultivated on it for 3 months, he had never realized. It was when he had forcibly used it during the Great Sect War and had its vicious energy invade his body that he had gained a connection to it. During their 30 years of seclusion, Shu Yanyan had gotten to meditate on the drum for a year. After a year had passed, Wenren E was still in seclusion, so Yeen Hanjiang had gone there to wake her up and shoo her away. After she left, Yeen Hanjiang leapt into the ravine. He stood on the drum, hearing the sounds of war drums by his ears. He wanted to gain power quicker, hoping to sharpen his sword will by cultivating on the drum and help his Venerable. But this time, he was completely unable to make progress. He didn't understand why. He was able to cultivate while wielding the demonic sword, but now he could not with the army-crushing sword. He stared at the blade. There seemed to be a voice deep inside him, telling him over and over that the weapon wasn't right. Yeen Hanjiang knew that swords weren't suited for him. Swords were too slow at killing people. When a triangular spike stabbed someone, the wound was difficult to close and the bleeding difficult to stop, so it was his favored weapon. He put on the ghost mask, After hiding his emotions, he felt his heart become unfettered, and he easily harmonized with the burning sky drum. His cultivation progressed quickly this time. After 10 years, his sword had become the army-crushing spike, a weapon that truly suited him, and Hanjiang had risen to the peak of Mahayana. But once he had left the drum and took off the mask, his realm dropped back to void boundary and his weapon returned to being a sword. Wenren E had once said that if a person's mental state didn't match their realm, it was like giving a 3-year-old child a magic sword. They could have the greatest treasure in the world, but be unable to use its power. Hanjiang knew that after taking off the mask and suppressing his true feelings, his mental state was insufficient for wielding Mahayana-level power. In order to grow stronger, he had to let go of his pretenses. He didn't dare. He couldn't imagine his Venerable's expression upon seeing that he held a triangular spike instead of a sword. So Hanjiang decided it was best to remain this way for now. When Altar Master Yuan had beaten him and was about to take the burning sky drum, Hanjiang had no choice but to put on the mask and unleash his true power. The mask wasn't special at all. It was only a shield to allow Hanjiang to show his true nature. Now that it had no use, it might as well accompany his Venerable. After Hanjiang finished what must be done, he would return to the blood hell. After 10 months, Hanjiang opened his eyes atop the burning sky drum. Only a god could absorb chaos energy. Using the divine weapon's power, he had already recovered and had another breakthrough. Hanjiang didn't know how strong he was now. He faintly felt he had already passed the point of his heavenly tribulation, and the heavenly lightning he had faced while pursuing Wentzhao a year back had, aside from enforcing the laws of heaven, also been meant for his breakthrough. He seemed to have immortal essence, but not quite. Oh well, it didn't matter. He just needed enough power. Hanjiang put away the burning sky drum and Wenren E's robe. After a long gaze at the sea of blood, he returned to Xuanyuan's sect in a flash of light. Xuanyuan's sect had been a bit chaotic this past year. First, sect leader Yeen and protector Shu joined forces to kill Altar Master Yuan. Then, the sect master had been surrounded and killed at the blood hell. Sect leader Yeen, who had previously been unassuming as a shadow, had snapped and scared the Shanqing sect master and his chief disciple into hiding in their sect for over a year. The battle had shaken the entire cultivation world. After gaining renown in battle, sect leader Yeen had vanished. The Xuanyuan sect was left without a leader. Altar Master Yuan's subordinates fought and killed over his position, and the rest of the Altar Masters began to eye Hanjiang's position after a year had gone by with no news. The Altar Masters and Qiu Tongshui would fight with each other several times in a month. Right now, they were nursing their injuries and saving up strength for the next fight. Shu Yanyan, who had once overcome all 4 Altar Masters, was comfortable in her position. She never participated in fighting, lazing around on her new large bed all day, occasionally going to mess with Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian. Baili Qingmiao had been injured after her bonded weapon was destroyed at the blood hell and had been recovering at Xuanyuan sect all this time. Zhong-lee Qian had made his agreement with Wenren E that he had to tell something to Hanjiang, so he couldn't leave before meeting Hanjiang. The two, along with Su Huai, had been guests in Qiu Tongshui's cultivation grounds. Since Qiu Tongshui was powerful and didn't have many subordinates, their stay was quite peaceful. The Left Protector's cultivation grounds are more deserted than a haunted house. Shu Yanyan had come to visit the injured Baili Qingmiao again, striking up a conversation when she saw Zhongli Qian helping Su Huai study. "Where's Protector Qiu?" "She has an appointment to fight the 3 Altar Masters in the main hall today." Zhongli Qian signaled for Su Huai to stop and rose to greet Shu Yanyan. "Long time no see, Protector Shu." "It hasn't been long, just 3 days." Shu Yanyan yawned languidly. "She sure can fight. She's just managed to get her flesh back and already turned into a skeleton again. Yet she's still fighting." Zhongli Qian poured a cup of tea for Shu Yanyan, saying warmly, "Protector Qiu is an honest woman with a straightforward nature, but she tends to overlook details. I must thank Protector Shu for keeping an eye on her this past year. It was nothing, Shu Yanyan said with a wave of her hand. Is there any reason for your visit today? Zhongli asked. I can never fool you. Shu Yanyan gazed at Zhongli face. You're smart, young Master Zhongli. What would you say I want? Zhongli picked up his own cup of tea, saying in an unhurried pace. The people of Xuanyuan sect are inconstant, and Protector Shu wishes to join in the fray, so is hoping for my support. It sure is convenient talking to someone intelligent, Shu Yanyan said, gazing at Zhongli with her chin in her hand. What does young Master Zhongli think? I know your relationship with Protector Qiu is better, but she doesn't have a brain, and the Xuanyuan sect would collapse after 3 days under her leadership. My thoughts? I hope Protector Shu will wait a few more days, Zhongli said. He had barely finished speaking when the wards around Xuanyuan sect broke. A terrifying force charged into the sect. Shu Yanyan stood and said seriously, Was this what you were waiting for, young Master Zhongli? Right. Zhongli put down his teacup and said to Su Huai, Go prepare medicines and a spirit gathering array. Your martial ancestor will be getting a lot more injured today. That rhymed. Sorry. Su Huai, ... Chapter 52. Tidying up the sect again. A fierce four-sided battle was currently going on at the Xuanyuan sect main hall. Altar Master Miao was trying to convince Altar Master Shi to fight Altar Master Zhen. Altar Master Shi was giving up and not helping either side. Altar Master Zhen wanted to team up with Qiu Tongshui, but Qiu Tongshui was determined to take all three on at once. Finally, it developed into a scene where Altar Masters Miao, Shi, and Zhen teamed up against Qiu Tongshui, while Miao and Zhen took potshots at each other from time to time, and Shi hid whenever he could. Suddenly, a streak of cold light shot into the room. An earth-shaking force caused the four to instantly stop and back off, trying to flee as quickly as possible. However, 3 streaks of fierce sword light slashed through the place where they were fighting. The tortoiseshell that Altar Master Zhen hadn't had time to pick up was split into pieces in an instant. Altar Master Shi clutched his chest in terror. Good thing he was quick at hiding, because the sword light was vicious, able to split your flesh open at a touch. The attacker hadn't held back in the least, as if they didn't care which of them were cut apart by the slash. Wondering who was so merciless, Shi Tongxin peeked out and saw Deputy Sect Leader Yeen wearing a crimson robe with a silver belt that outlined the slim shape of his waist. Yeen Hanjiang, do you want to die? Altar Master Zhen yelled, looking heartbrokenly at his tortoiseshell. Do you also want to become the Lord of Demons? Come on! Whoever's stronger will... Yeen Hanjiang waved a hand. Translucent chi in the shape of a drumstick smacked into Altar Master Zhen's chestplate. Altar Master Zhen's armor was said to have been made from the Xuanwu shell, and was a top-grade defense item, stronger than many smaller sects' wards. However, under Yeen Hanjiang's strike, his chestplate shattered in an instant. It felt like his chest had been hit by the weight of an entire mountain. He flew out of the room, and might have gone much further if the sect's array didn't block him. When he crawled back up the mountain, covered with dust, he heard Yeen Hanjiang's cold voice echoing across the main hall. After Wenren no one can be titled Venerable. What do you mean? Qiu Tongshui said furiously. Now that Wenren-E's dead, it's no issue if you want to become the Lord of Demons. You just gotta fight for it. But if you don't want it, what gives you the right to stop other people? Shu Yanyan, who had rushed over when the array was broken. ... I thought I'd be in time to save her, she said to Zhongli. Oh well, might be better for her to get a beating. She grabbed for Zhongli hand, deciding to back off, but reached for empty air. Turning, she saw that Zhongli, who had been alongside her the whole way, had already backed 100 meters away with Su Huai. Shu Yanyan... ... This man with both looks and brains certainly never missed anything. She retreated plenty fast, but was still hit by a flying Qiu Tongshui. Her soft body caught Qiu Tongshui's rack of bones. Shu Yanyan had brought out her spider lily, preventing her from being sent flying all the way to the mountains array like Altar Master Zhen. She managed to stand back up, tossing Qiu Tongshui aside. After looking more closely, she saw Qiu Tongshui really was on her last legs, and the remaining flesh on her face was also gone. She said to Qiu Tongshui, you find trouble everywhere you can, and never learn your lesson until you get hurt. She placed a slim foot on Qiu Tongshui's face, her eyes curving into a smile. Spider lilies bloomed around Altar Masters Shi and Miao, displaying a clear threat. After she had held back the other two Altar Masters, Shu Yanyan got to one knee respectfully before Yeen Hanjiang. This subordinate greets Sect Leader Yeen. Seeing the states Altar Master Zhen and Protector Qiu were in, and how Shu Yanyan threw in the towel immediately and had no intention of joining forces with them, Altar Master Shi and Miao had no choice but to recognize Yeen Hanjiang, even if they were unwilling. Without any resistance, they knelt obediently alongside Shu Yanyan. Yeen Hanjiang landed on the ground. He glanced at Shu Yanyan and immediately closed his eyes. He hadn't had contact with anyone over this past year, yet he saw phantoms of Wenren E whether his eyes were open or closed. Now everyone he saw looked like Wenren E, and even Shu Yanyan bore his face. It was truly improper. Zhongli Qian sighed quietly. He told Su Huai, "Take your martial ancestor back for healing. She can go next to your master." Su Huai went over to pick up Qiu Tongshui. At this point, she only had a skeleton left, and it was unknown how long it would take her to recover. Shu Yanyan also had her subordinate He Lian Chu take Altar Master Zhen away, and ordered people to clean up the main hall. Qiu Tongshui and the rest had been fighting here for months, so it was a mess, and Shu Yanyan had been too lazy to fix it. After all, it'd be broken in a few days anyway. After Yeen Hanjiang had crushed them under his heel, the main hall could finally be at peace. Shu Yanyan finally sent her subordinates to sort it out. Yeen Hanjiang saw that the main hall doors had been smashed. The hall, as well as Wenren E's room, had been covered with dust, and a beam had fallen on Wenren E's bed. He waved a hand and sent Altar Master Miao flying to join Altar Master Zhen and Qiu Tongshui. Altar Master Shi, who rarely acted, shrank into himself and followed Yeen Hanjiang, trembling. Yeen Hanjiang raised his voice so that it reached every corner of the hall. "You all can continue to fight in the main hall as usual, but from now on, however many stones you smash and however many beams you break, I'll break that many bones and meridians." He waved a hand, having the army-crushing spike return to his grasp. Its vicious edges chilled everyone who saw it to their core. This was the weapon who had stripped all the flesh off Qiu Tongshui in an instant, with the proficiency of a master butcher. With Qiu Tongshui's bloody body as an example, no one dared to revolt. Altar Master Yuan's former subordinates also stopped their infighting, obediently casting spells to clean and fix up the place. In less than 2 hours, the main hall was repaired. Sect Leader Yeen, should the head seat be changed?" one of Altar Master Yuan's subordinates asked warily. "No need," Yeen Hanjiang said. "Then should Sect Master Wenren's furniture be changed? Will Sect Leader Yeen be moving into his room?" "Of course Yeen Hanjiang was about to refuse, but hesitated. He pressed his lips together and said, "You can leave it the way it was. Where I stay isn't any of your business." After cleaning up the main hall in accordance with Yeen Hanjiang's orders, they all retreated, leaving only Zhongli Qian and Shu Yanyan. Having been there during Yeen Hanjiang's battle with Altar Master Yuan, Shu Yanyan felt rather wary. She took a step back and didn't speak, leaving everything to Zhongli Qian. Yeen Hanjiang paid no attention to the two. He stared at the chair Wenren E usually sat on, unwilling to take it. He had always stood to the left of the chair. Zhongli Qian noticed he was standing still and spoke to remind Yeen Hanjiang. "Sect Leader Yeen, I've been staying at Xuanyuan Sect for these past months because Sir Wenren asked me a favor. there are some words I need to pass on to you." Hearing Wenren E's name, Hanjiang froze. Standing before the seat, he said coldly, "What words?" Sir Wenren said, "This Venerable must go to the blood hell, and I have some certainty of my survival. For the moment, Hanjiang need not accompany me. If this Venerable does not return for 1 year, you can erect a cenotaph and decide on your own whether to follow this Venerable or do something else." Those were his exact words. Not one is missed. Zhongli Qian couldn't see Hanjiang's expression, but he could sense his emotions. These past few months, he had also thought it was silly for him to remain at Sheen-yeh sect. A year had passed, and these words were already meaningless. Even so, Zhongli Qian still had to fulfill his promise and wait for Hanjiang's return to pass these words on to him. "I can erect a cenotaph after 1 year." Hanjiang clutched his chest, feeling like it was rotting inside, the pain unbearable. He rested a hand on the armrest of the chair for a long while. Finally, he slowly sat down on the chair that symbolized the supreme authority in Sheen-yeh sect. "I won't erect one right now," Hanjiang said through gritted teeth. "I'll kill Wenzhao and the other people who ambushed him that day, and offer their souls to my Venerable." Hearing his bloodthirsty words, Zhongli Qian had to advise him. "Sect leader Yeen, Sir Wenren could have entered the blood hell at any time, but he wanted the righteous sects to think he was the blood demon in order to unmask the true blood demon inside Wenzhao before the righteous and demonic paths. Sir Wenren has said that once a blood cultivator begins consuming souls, they won't be able to stop. The blood demon will need 5 years to completely absorb the 17 cultivators' powers. After 5 years, he'll start killing again, so we'll be able to act then. I beg Sect Leader Yeen to endure for now, and not fail Sir Wenren's plan." Shu Yanyan watched as Hanjiang's expression became darker and darker. Only when Zhongli Qian mentioned not failing Wenren did Hanjiang manage to restrain himself. Shu Yanyan was worried. Hanjiang could control his darker nature now because of Wenren words, but after he completed his revenge, there might be nothing in the world to restrain Hanjiang. "I understand." Hanjiang took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. "The Venerable is compassionate and thinks only of mortal lives. He doesn't care who harms him, but I'm not like that." "Compassionate?" Shu Yanyan stared blankly. Who was Hanjiang talking about again? Wenren Did he misunderstand Wenren While she wondered, she saw Hanjiang gripping the armrests tightly. "I can wait 5 years, but I won't do nothing in that time." "I remember all 9 experts there that day. They were from Shangqing, Tianjian, Jiuxiang, Biluo, and Wuxiang, the 5 great sects, as well as Gongxi, Liangqiu, and Nanguo clans. I've killed the Nanguo clan elder, so 8 remain. I'll gift them all to the blood demon elder." Shu Yanyan had guessed what Hanjiang would do. With a gulp, she said, "Sect leader, at our current strength, Sheen-yeh sect can't take on so many sects and cultivation clans at once. Also, Shangqing sect is holed up behind its wards, which you failed to break last time." The Great Sect War was one thing, but to destroy a rooted sect was another. Almost every sect and clan was warded by immortal artifacts. If they really hid shamelessly, it would be very difficult to snatch an elder or disciple from within a sect. Hanjiang said expressionlessly, "The larger sects have many branches, so there are always bound to be some disciples traveling outside. We'll lie low for a few years, using soul puppeting, goo parasites, or curses to control them, then use them to lure in the experts of their sect and crush them one by one." Hearing his words, Zhongli Qian immediately said, "Sect Leader Yeen, I've passed on the message, and the rest of this is Sheen-yeh sect's affairs, so I do not wish to get involved. I have already troubled Sheen-yeh sect for many months, so I think—" Hanjiang interrupted him. "Mr. Zhongli is clever, and the Sheen-yeh sect currently lacks an altar master. Since you've already troubled us for a year, why don't you just stay? Protector Shu, prepare a residence for Altar Master Zhong-lee." Shu Yanyan's eyes brightened, and she eagerly said, "This subordinate understands." Zhongli Qian, ... Chapter 53. Inner Demons' Illusions. Content warning, mentions of suicide interspersed throughout the next few chapters. Zhongli Qian wanted to refuse. He was a Mahayana cultivator, so with his power and intellect, Yeen Hanjiang wouldn't be able to stop him unless he crippled his cultivation. And since Yeen Hanjiang wanted Zhongli Qian to work for him, he would have to treat him properly, not like a criminal. He was about to raise his objections and ask Yeen Hanjiang to reconsider, but the red-robed man said, "Zhongli Qian, do you know what the first thing I wanted to do upon returning to the sect was?" Zhongli Qian's heart stuttered. "I have an idea. My plan was to first send Xuanyuan sect members to gather up wandering cultivators and small sects unaffiliated with the great sects. We could accept those willing to make spirit vows and join the Xuanyuan sect, while those unwilling would be interrogated for their secret techniques and killed." Yeen Hanjiang said heartlessly, "Within 3 years, all cultivators unaffiliated with the great sects or cultivation clans would belong to us. At that point, we take over the weaker sects and make their disciples ours, then overcome the others one by one." Yeen Hanjiang laughed scornfully at himself. "I'm not my lord. I don't mind the lives of the members of Xuanyuan sect, or the lives of innocent bystanders. I'll do anything in order to achieve my goals. Zhongli Qian, your words have held me back, but since you got in the way of my plan, you'll have to make up for it." This... Zhongli Qian used spiritual cognition to sense Yeen Hanjiang and found his words weren't empty. "I must take revenge. If you don't want me to bring chaos to the cultivation world, then you had better do your best to stop me. I won't lock you up. It's up to you whether or not you'll be an altar master." Yeen Hanjiang stood up, turning his back and leaving the main hall, leaving Zhongli Qian to his decision. Zhongli Qian smiled wryly. He knew Yeen Hanjiang was telling him that once he left, Yeen Hanjiang would return to his old plan. Yeen Hanjiang hadn't been lying. He really didn't care about Xuanyuan's sect, the cultivation world, or even all lives on earth. The only person worthy of his concern in the world was Wenren E. In order to avenge Wenren E, Yeen Hanjiang could throw away everything else. "Still want to leave?" Yanyan said, smiling. Zhongli Qian sighed. "Sect leader Yeen and Sir Wenren both understand people well. Both have been open and upfront, never using underhanded plots so far, but this is harder to deal with than a plot." "Well, Yanyan better go prepare a residence for Altar Master Zhong-lee. It's not ideal to keep staying at Chu Tongshue's place, right?" Yanyan said. "You don't seem concerned about Sect Leader Yeen's current state," Zhongli Qian said. "Aren't you afraid of the world being thrown into chaos?" "Altar Master Zhong-lee can worry about it, so why should I stress myself?" said Yanyan. "Even if the sky falls, there will be smart people to hold it up. I don't desire much, so I'm happy just to have someone attractive near me to ease my eyes." Hearing her melodious laughter, Zhongli Qian said, "Protector Shu is wise." Resignedly, he followed Protector Shu to accept his position as Altar Master. No one was concerned he'd be unable to keep Altar Master Yuan's former subordinates in line. With his capabilities, it wouldn't take him more than a month to sort out the main hall. Yanyan dumped a large pile of jade slips containing Xuanyuan sect's history, roster, and regulations on Zhongli Qian. A single jade slip of the cultivation world could hold as much information as a cartload of books, and there were over 100 of them alone. After piling them all on Zhongli Qian's desk, her face flushed slightly, and she said ruefully, "You don't need to overdo it. Don't stress yourself out too much. The white hair lends you a distinctive air, but if you went bald, there's no way I could like you anymore." "I'll do my best." While Yanyan messed with Zhongli Qian, Yeen Hanjiang had come to Wenren E's old room, which was now his. Wenren E was a frugal person. Unlike Yanyan, who filled her cultivation grounds with beds, his room only had a desk, 4 chairs, and a bed barely big enough to fit 2 adults. The remaining vast space was for his cultivation. The floor was covered with rays, only needing spiritual stones to be placed in their foci to be activated. Yeen Hanjiang came to the bed. Wenren E rarely laid down, so this bed was just here for him to meditate on. He stared for a while at the simple wooden bed, then took off his boots and laid down with his clothes still on, resting his head on the pillow his Venerable rarely used. His heart thumped, louder than the burning sky drum. Counting his own heartbeats, Yeen Hanjiang painfully closed his eyes. When his Venerable was still here, he often came to this room to listen to his Venerable's teachings. Sometimes, Wenren E would read silently, and as Yeen Hanjiang waited, his mind would wander. Sometimes, he would stare at Wenren E's handsome features, and sometimes stare at the bed and daydream. What was he thinking about back then? Yeen Hanjiang wondered quietly. He didn't remember. "You do remember, don't you?" said a familiar voice from beside the bed. It was his Venerable. Yeen Hanjiang didn't open his eyes, knowing this wasn't real. "Sect Leader Yeen, at the time, you were thinking of how wonderful it would be to secretly lie in this bed, weren't you?" The voice became more harsh, growing closer. Yeen Hanjiang's eyes flew open. Wenren E was standing before him, only wearing a white inner robe. As he kept his eyes on Wenren E, the phantasm came on to the bed with him, lying on his side next to Yeen Hanjiang, saying in a low voice, "This Venerable is not opposed to sleeping alongside Sect Leader Yeen." Yeen Hanjiang sat upright, his gaze locked on Wenren E, as if he was facing down his unruly heart. He had once said to Zhongli Qian, "If there is no desire, there will be no suffering. If there is only love, there will be no resentment." He had thought these words were the truth, straight from his heart, but the reason love led to suffering was that fantasies were hard to suppress. How could he not desire? How could he never have improper thoughts? Even when he had not yet understood his heart, he had still thought that the wine from his Venerable's cup was incomparably sweet, wanting to still a sip. Now that he had realized, his fantasies had run out of control. "Come here, Sect Leader Yeen." The Wenren E on the bed beckoned him. "Or do you want this Venerable to call you Hanjiang?" "Enough!" Yeen Hanjiang roared. He lunged across the bed, wanting to grab that Wenren E, but only met with empty air. There was nothing within his arms. His Venerable wasn't there. Yeen Hanjiang stared at the empty bed in a daze. There wasn't even a wrinkle at the place where Wenren E had been lying. After spacing out for a while, he slowly rubbed the place where the illusion had been lying, seeming to feel a slight warmth. But when he moved over, then looked at the place where he had just lain, it was empty. There seemed to be an insatiable beast in his heart, devouring all of his emotions. He didn't dare get on the bed again, despondently sitting at the desk. Another Wenren E appeared in the seat next to him. Wenren E picked up a wine cup and poured himself wine. After drinking half the cup, he looked toward Yeen Hanjiang. "Hanjiang, why are you looking at this Venerable in that way? Do you want to drink? Here." He purposefully turned the cup, letting the place he had drank from face toward Yeen Hanjiang. Obediently, Yeen Hanjiang dipped his head, drinking from Wenren E's hand, but as before, he sipped nothing but air. He wasn't devastated this time. He'd known it was fake, yet he had indulged himself in order to tell himself that this was all an illusion, and he could not trust it. He rubbed his face and took out God of Annihilation Volume 2 from his storage belt. He needed to find some way to occupy himself in his Venerable's room. Yeen Hanjiang had heard Wenren E say that Abusive Romance and God of Annihilation respectively recorded Baili Qingmiao and Wenzhao's fate, and they seemed to be the focal points of this world. Yeen Hanjiang had personally witnessed the spiritual realm change depending on whether Baili Qingmiao was conscious, so knew that this book recorded fate itself. In order to defeat Wenzhao, he had to know his enemy. Even though the second volume told the events in the immortal realm, he could at least find the weak points of Wenzhao's character. Hanjiang had been injured before, so he didn't dare open this book which recorded his Venerable's death, afraid that it might affect his mind and impede his recovery. Only now that he was back at Xinye's sect, in his Venerable's room, a place that put him at ease, did Hanjiang dare to open the book. Doing his best to ignore the mention of Wenren E's death in the summary, Hanjiang sped read through the book. In the book, Wenzhao and Baili Qingmiao arrived in the immortal realm, initially keeping a low profile and gradually gaining renown. Baili Qingmiao had good aptitudes and looks, so there were always immortals foolish enough to hit on her. The first part of the story relied entirely on Baili Qingmiao to move the plot. Someone would harass Baili Qingmiao and Wenzhao would act. Then she would be harassed again, so Wenzhao would act again. Wenzhao had had several breakthroughs in his cultivation, seemingly just to save Baili Qingmiao. After reading this, Hanjiang was sure that women were Wenzhao's weakness. Afterward, the Violet Spirit Master, the Gongxi Mistress, Zhongli Kuang, Yao Jiaping, and Tsun Zhengqi ascended one after another. Wenzhao had also met several powerful female immortals and male immortals rebellious toward the Burning Sky Immortal. His influence gradually grew until he could contend with the Burning Sky Immortal. In this part, Hanjiang found Wenzhao seemed to have no reservations toward women. He would even treat women who used to be his enemies warmly, as long as they didn't already have a man. At the beginning, Baili Qingmiao had gotten plenty of scenes, but as the number of female characters grew, she became less prominent. After fighting a few times with Wenzhao over his relations with other women, she stormed out and wound up kidnapped by the Burning Sky Immortal. The Burning Sky Immortal cast Baili Qingmiao into the immortal realm's divine flames in order to refine her into a soul lamp. Seeing soul lamp, Hanjiang's eyebrows rose. He felt this Burning Sky Immortal was somehow familiar. No shit. Anyway, indeed, when he flipped the page, he saw. The Burning Sky Immortal looked sadly at Baili Qingmiao and said, "Since Wenren loved you, you shouldn't betray his feelings. I'm going to refine you into an ever-burning lamp to place in the sky above the blood hell and illuminate it for eternity, so you can always be with him. Isn't that good?" With these words, and his relation to the Burning Sky Drum, Hanjiang was now certain that the Burning Sky Immortal in the second volume was himself. But what was his future self saying? His Venerable loved Baili Qingmiao? He put down the book, sitting at the desk in a daze, his eyes blank. Baili Qingmiao had been recovering in Xinye's sect for over a year at this point, spending most of that time unconscious. Her bonded weapon had been disintegrated by chaos energy. If a bond with the weapon was forcibly severed, the dantian would be seriously damaged and it would be difficult to recover. This wasn't a problem to Qiu Tongxue, though. This just affected her flesh body. It would be so much better to just discard it and cultivate her soul as a ghost cultivator. She could give Baili Qingmiao all her secret techniques, as well as open up the hungry ghost path for her and throw her into there to cultivate. That was a sacred ground for ghost cultivators. Qiu Tongxue always acted according to her words and was highly efficient. It was fortunate that Zhongli Qian arrived in time and told Qiu Tongxue that Baili Qingmiao's heaviest injury was not on her body, but in her heart. Even if she cultivated as a soul, the injury to her soul wouldn't heal, and she had no possibility of surviving the hungry ghost path in such a state. Zhongli Qian wasn't doing so well at the moment either. He knew that Baili Qingmiao's heart was broken. He himself was affected, feeling the urge to end his own life every day. In truth, if Zhongli Qian wasn't restraining her, Baili Qingmiao might have attempted suicide numerous times. Eventually, Shu Yanyan had sought out Altar Master Miao for help in suppressing the heart-linking parasites. Altar Master Miao wasn't sure of Wenren E's death at the time, so he didn't dare remove the parasites and only gave some medicine to alleviate the effects. Thus, Zhongli Qian was temporarily freed. But Baili Qingmiao's condition became worse. Zhongli Qian could only ask Altar Master Shi to sit with Baili Qingmiao for a night. After one night, Baili Qingmiao fell ill, drifting in and out of consciousness, so she didn't have the strength to take her own life, even if she wanted to. Baili Qingmiao had spent these past days half-conscious, not knowing where she was and unclear on how much time had passed. In her daze, she faintly felt that Su Huai had set down a rack of white bones next to her, mumbling to himself as he wiped them. "Are you an idiot? Always looking for trouble. Is there anything in your brain besides fighting and eating?" The skeleton moved its jawbone, making a click-clack sound, as if it were speaking. Baili Qingmiao couldn't understand it, but Su Huai seemed to have no trouble doing so. He said casually, "Are you proud that you're a skeleton? After all the effort I went through to get a body, do you know how happy I was? Yet you've managed to get yourself the body of a wandering immortal, and treat it like this." Click-clack, click-clack, clack! The skeleton's jawbone fell off. Su Huai's voice was suffused with worry. "How long is it going to take you to recover now? Consider from time to time that you're not a ghost cultivator anymore. You're a wandering immortal with a body grown from the flesh mushroom. Each bit of flesh you lose lowers your power. Sect leader Yeen has already diminished your power to the nascent soul stage. If this keeps up, you'll lose your position as sect protector." Sighing, Su Huai helped the skeleton reattach its jaw. "Protector Shu said that you first absorbed the flesh mushroom by soaking your bones in its broth, so its essence is in your bones. You recover with top-grade spiritual stones and attentive care. Mr. Jong-lee is currently setting up a spirit gathering array for you, so I'll take you there in a bit. Cultivate properly. Stop abusing the flesh on your body." He let out a long sigh. As a core formation cultivator, he was taking responsibilities far above his station. After settling down Qiu Tongshui, he went to feed Baili Qingmiao medicine. He pried open his master's jaw with practiced motions, stuffing the pill in, then used his spiritual energy to move Baili Qingmiao's throat and force her to swallow. After he finished, he picked up the skeleton and went to find Zhongli Qian. Baili Qingmiao was somewhat aware at this moment and guessed that the skeleton was Qiu Tongshui. She wanted to ask Su Huai if her master was okay and how she had gotten so injured. Her lips had moved slightly, but she was unable to open her mouth. After Su Huai left, Baili Qingmiao laid there, her body feeling heavy. She felt someone sit by her side. An ice-cold piece of metal touched her face a few times. She sensed powerful, murderous intent, and her survival instincts made her open her eyes. The moment she did, she saw Yeen Hanjiang sitting by her bed, holding a spike blade over her nose. There was a dark look in his eyes, as if he was deciding whether or not to stab down. Chapter 54. Unstable Mind. After reading the book, Yeen Hanjiang had been in a daze for a long time. He didn't remember what he was thinking back then. He suddenly remembered his Venerable had once said he had a debt toward Baili Qingmiao, which he could only repay by helping her attain godhood. He also remembered how Zhongli Qian had told him that Wenren E had faced danger to save Baili Qingmiao, not because he didn't care about his own life, but because he had a plan. Sitting at the desk, he cocked his head slightly, not quite certain whether these memories were real or his own imagination. He turned toward the Wenren E sitting at his left side and said, "Does the Venerable like Baili Qingmiao?" "Don't you remember what this Venerable has told you?" said that Wenren E. Yeen Hanjiang turned his head to the Wenren E sitting on his right. "What do you think, Venerable?" "This Venerable has told you that these books record fate, and fate is difficult to change," said Wenren E. With both Wenren E's repeating his Venerable's words by his ears, Yeen Hanjiang's thoughts felt disordered. He didn't know whose words were correct, and didn't even know if the two people next to him really existed. He lifted his hands, wanting to cover his ears, but now that he was able to listen to his Venerable's voice, he was loath to seal his hearing. Yeen Hanjiang shook his head a few times, feeling that something was wrong with him. He put away the book and sat cross-legged on the bed, reciting the clear mind spell, trying to calm his heart and quiet his unruly thoughts. But the two Wenren E's sat next to Yeen Hanjiang, pressed against his side. Is sect leader Yeen reciting the clear mind spell because he no longer wants to see this venerable? Hanjiang felt his meridians were clogged and couldn't even circulate his spiritual essence through his body. He forcibly tried to open his meridians, but spat up a mouthful of blood. There was a piercing pain in his dantian, and he was unable to circulate any spiritual essence. False. All false. Hanjiang brought out Wenren E's robe. Holding it to his chest, he felt much better. Clutching it tight, he closed his eyes. He was uncertain if he fell asleep or lost consciousness. Vaguely, he seemed to have a dream, though it also seemed to not be a dream, and instead something that really happened. He dreamed that, after the Great Sect War, his Venerable had been saved by a woman of the righteous sects. His Venerable favored that woman very much, and at last died saving her at the blood hell. At the moment, before he fell into the blood hell, his Venerable had thrown that woman, wrapped in his own robe, at Hanjiang, along with the blood-red stone. His last words were, "Protect her for this Venerable." The pain that seemed to split his heart woke Hanjiang. He looked at his arms and saw only a robe, but no woman. Odd. How did his Venerable die? Hanjiang shook his head. He seemed to have trouble remembering. There were two series of events in his memories. In one, his Venerable was good to him and treated him warmly. He retrieved the snow flame for him, forged a bonded weapon for him, and gave him his robe. In the other, he quietly looked on as his Venerable treated a woman kindly enough to make his heart ache, kindly enough that time after time he put on the ghost mask in the dead of night, carving that woman's figure out of wood with his sword, after which he would gouge her face out with his fingernails, bit by bit, and slowly reduce the figurine to wood chips. Which was real? Hanjiang dug through his storage belt and found many wood figurines of Wenren E, which he had carved secretly. They all looked unsightly, and he didn't dare show them to his Venerable. Wood figurines? So his Venerable liking that girl was true, and his Venerable treating him well was just a fantasy created by his inner demons? Protector Yeen, your body is cold. Drink some of this Venerable's blood. A Wenren E stood before Hanjiang, holding out his hand, offering Hanjiang his blood. Hanjiang ignored him. He extended 2 fingers, digging them deep into his eyes. If he gouged out his eyes, then he would no longer see the illusions. The pain shocked him back to his senses, and he managed to regain some reason. Hanjiang put away the robe and figurines. He pushed open the door and immediately ran into Su Huai, who was carrying a skeleton and looking for Zhongli Tian. When the skeleton saw Hanjiang, all of its joints started clattering. Who knew if it was scared or cursing out Hanjiang? "Stop moving!" Su Huai grabbed Qiu Tongshue's bones, preventing her from speaking. "If your bones are shattered and the essence of the flesh mushroom flowed out, you'd really be done for." Seeing Hanjiang walk directly toward him, Su Huai rushed to kneel down while holding the skeleton still. "This one greets Sect Leader Yeen." "Who are you?" The corners of Hanjiang's eyes were bleeding as he stared at Su Huai. Su Huai said frantically, "I'm Baili Qingmiao's disciple and Zhongli Qian's student. At this point, I haven't yet entered the Xuanyuan sect and am still on Shangqing sect's roster. I don't know if I count as a member of Xuanyuan sect, but if possible, I'd like to enter the Hellfire Altar." Xuanyuan sect was a major sect for ghost cultivators, and people like Wenren E and Hanjiang were legendary figures of the kind it took 3 lifetimes of fortune to meet once. Qiu Tongxue had originally also been in this class, but he had known her for too long. With how well Su Huai knew his martial ancestors' tendencies, he really couldn't respect her. "I don't remember you." Hanjiang stared at Su Huai, unsure if his memory was faulty or if they really hadn't met before. "I had the honor of meeting Sect Leader Yeen at the Violet Spirit Pavilion. I'm such an insignificant person that it makes sense for Sect Leader to not remember me," Su Huai said, scratching his head. "You're Baili Qingmiao's disciple?" Hanjiang lifted a hand. He remembered that Baili Qingmiao was the girl his Venerable favored. even if he couldn't kill her. Could he not kill her disciple? Su Huai, not sensing the danger, replied honestly, "Yes, my master and I were victims of Shang-Qing's sect schemes and have much gratitude toward sect master Wenren for saving us. Su Huai is willing to join the Xuanyuan sect and serve sect leader Yeen for life." This Venerable, saved by Qingmiao at the blood hell? Yin Hanjiang withdrew the hand that had almost reached Su Huai's body. "Yes, it was really dangerous. The righteous cultivators are all scum, and that When-jow..." Beep! Su Huai started cussing again. Since Zhongli Qian and his master weren't here, he took the opportunity to cuss the righteous cultivators out so hard their ancestral tablets would be smoking. Yin Hanjiang had never even heard some of the words he used, but he understood perfectly well. After listening for a bit, he clapped Su Huai on the shoulder. "Good cussing." Su Huai chuckled awkwardly. "Master and Mr. Jong-lee both don't like to hear me cuss. If sect leader likes it, I could sneak over and cuss for you to hear." What? "Sounds good," Yin Hanjiang said. "Where's Baili Qingmiao?" "Protector Chu's quarters. It's rich in spiritual energy, which Mr. Zhongli said would help Master recover," Su Huai said a bit doubtfully. "After Master returned from the blood hell, her mental state hasn't been right. Mr. Zhongli said it wasn't just heartbreak, but that something seems to be influencing her soul." Yin Hanjiang said nothing more to Su Huai, flying directly toward Baili Qingmiao's room. No one in Xuanyuan's sect would dare to stop him, so Yin Hanjiang entered Qiu Tongshue's room without any obstacles. Inside, he saw the beautiful girl lying on the bed, her brows knitted, seeming to be trapped in some nightmare. He sat at Baili Qingmiao's bedside, staring down at her. She really was very beautiful. Yin Hanjiang brought out the army-crushing spike, bumping Baili Qingmiao's face a few times with its cold hilt. He aimed its point at Baili Qingmiao's nose, wondering if he should gouge her face out. Where should he start? The nose? No, she wasn't a carving. He couldn't gouge her up. His Venerable wanted him to protect Baili Qingmiao. He had thrown over a blood-red stone along with her. What had that been? Where was it? On Baili Qingmiao? Yin Hanjiang appeared calm, but the thoughts in his mind had repeated themselves 1,000 times. His murderous intent fluctuated, and, sensing it, Baili Qingmiao finally opened her eyes. The moment she did, she saw the army-crushing spike right next to her face. Baili Qingmiao took a deep breath, saying weakly, Sect Leader Yeen, what are you going to do?" Yin Hanjiang could act as crazy as he wanted in private, but in front of other people, he had to be a flawless sect leader in order to gain their confidence. "I'm here to see you." Yin Hanjiang spoke very slowly, each sentence requiring a lot of thought. As he spoke, the army-crushing spike still hovered above Baili Qingmiao's face. She had originally thought that this wasn't a bad way to die, but the moment she saw Yin Hanjiang, all her hair stood on end. Somehow, she found the strength to prop herself up on her arms and shift bit by bit to the other side of the bed, trying to get herself out of the spike's range. Seeing her move, Yin Hanjiang shifted his weapon so it still pointed at her nose. A deep chill ran through Baili Qingmiao's body. She said in a trembling voice, "Sect Leader Yeen, I want to sit up. Could you please move your weapon?" "Oh." Yin Hanjiang looked at the army-crushing spike, as if he had just noticed it. He said in realization, "This is the bonded weapon my Venerable forged for me, using the Shattered Mountain meteorite." Right, Baili Qingmiao said frantically. "Senior Wenren, Sect Leader Yeen, Master Qingxue, and I worked together to get the Shattered Mountain meteorite." "Then this is real." A slight smile appeared on Yin Hanjiang's face, and he moved his weapon away. Baili Qingmiao sat up, gasping roughly for breath, feeling like she had escaped a terrible fate. She watched as Yin Hanjiang waved the army-crushing spike in front of her eyes, like a child showing off a toy. This is the near-immortal artifact the Venerable forged for me from the Shattered Mountain meteorite. It's a powerful bondage weapon that suits me perfectly. Yeah, Senior Wenren also retrieved the snow flame in order to drive out the Yeen energy within your body. It's all my fault that Senior Wenren is now... She remembered now. At the Blood Hell, she had seen Wenzhao attack her without mercy. Instantly, her heart had frozen over. She had thought that since her Shuxiong wanted to kill her, maybe it was best that she just die. That thought burrowed into her brain like a parasite, which she couldn't get rid of no matter what. At that moment, Baili Qingmiao couldn't feel anything else besides the desire for death. "What's wrong with me?" she said, looking at her hands. "This isn't me. Even if I wanted to die, I wouldn't be so selfish. Brother Zhongli and I are connected by the heart-linking parasite. Before we can remove the parasite, how can I let Brother Zhongli's mind be affected?" It was now, under Yin Hanjiang's murderous intent, that Baili Qingmiao seemed to wake from her dream. Thinking back on the last year, a shudder ran through her. Am I crazy? Or is something controlling me? Inner demons? No one else was around, so Baili Qingmiao could only ask Yin Hanjiang. I don't know. Yin Hanjiang wiped the army-crushing spike's blades with Baili Qingmiao's skirt. All I know is that if a cultivator goes mad, it's because they themselves want to. The cold surface of the army-crushing spike reflected Yin Hanjiang's twisted expression. Chapter 55. Seems I was late. Oh, is this when he returns? I hope so. Anyway, Baili Qingmiao didn't notice that Yin Hanjiang had cut several gashes into her dress. She thought back on her memories of the past year, feeling like she had been controlled. Besides thinking that if her Shuxiong wanted to kill her, she might as well die, there had been no other thoughts in her head. She'd lost all will to live, her heart completely controlled by Wenzhao. Occasionally, another desire would surface within her, but quickly be crushed by the desire for death. No, she said decisively. A normal cultivator wouldn't wish for themselves to go mad. Only when something is already wrong with them and their rationality is already destabilized by inner demons, so that only desire remains in their mind, can inner demons take advantage of their weakness. Yin Hanjiang moved his gaze very slowly from the army-crushing spike to Baili Qingmiao. He laughed silently. You're right. I'm the one who let it happen. Huh? You? Baili Qingmiao blinked innocently. Yin Hanjiang stood up slowly. I'm not sure which is true. Since I can't tell, I might as well not worry about it. Oh, worry about what? Baili Qingmiao faintly felt that something was wrong. She wanted to escape, but the moment she tried to use her spiritual essence, she felt a sharp pain in her dantian and was powerless to do so. She could only slowly shrink to the other side of the bed, huddling in her blanket, looking pitifully weak and powerless. The smile on Yin Hanjiang's face hadn't vanished. Now that I think about it, there's no need for me to figure out what's true and what's false, because one thing doesn't change. The fact that my Venerable is already... He couldn't continue, unwilling to say it. Senior Wenren was trying to save me. It's all my fault. Baili Qingmiao began to sob, unable to stop her tears from flowing upon hearing his words. In that case, there are only two things I need to do. The first is to take vengeance, and the second is to send something he might like down to accompany him. Yin Hanjiang's gaze landed on Baili Qingmiao. Once I send it to him, the Venerable can decide whether or not he likes it. What do you think? As he spoke, he gradually raised the army-crushing spike. The cold light reflecting off the steel hurt Baili Qingmiao's eyes. I don't think it's a good idea, said the voice from the doorway. Yin Hanjiang remained in his stance of holding the weapon in the air, turning his head to see Wenren standing at the doorway, with white hair and a blindfold, smiling slightly at him. He knew it was Zhongli Qian, but he couldn't recognize him. His head poked out from behind Zhongli Qian's back, revealing itself to be Su Huai. He glanced at Yin Hanjiang's face and said, Sect Leader Yeen, your eyes are injured. So I asked Mr. Zhong-lee to look at your eyes. I see. Yeen Hanjiang rubbed the now dry blood at the corners of his eyes. It's no problem, he said lightly. It'll heal soon. At least let me wipe the blood, Zhong-lee said calmly. He took out a handkerchief and, seeming to not notice that Baili Qingmiao had woken, sat at the bedside. With Su Huai's pointers, he gently wiped away the dried blood, applying medicine at the same time. When he was about to bandage them, Yeen Hanjiang stopped him. If my eyes are covered, I won't be able to see him. Zhongli didn't ask who he was, just changed the subject. Xuanyuan sect's historical records are long, so I still need a few more days to take my position at the main hall. Su Huai is a clever child, and he enjoys the atmosphere of Xuanyuan sect, so I thought of having him help out here. I hope Sect Leader Yeen will approve. Su Huai belongs to Shang... Baili Qingmiao barely opened her mouth when Zhongli tossed a jade slip into her hand, interrupting her. Baili Qingmiao is the disciple of Protector Chu, so she counts as half a member of Xuanyuan sect. Since her heart is linked to mine, after she recovers, she could also help me out there. What does Sect Leader Yeen think? I don't agree, Yeen Hanjiang said. I have use for her. Use? What use? In what way? Zhongli Qian's eyebrows rose. He couldn't see, but it was obvious to him that Yeen Hanjiang was in a bad state. He arrived in time to save Baili Qingmiao only because, as Su Huai brought Chu Tongshui to him, he happened to mention his encounter with Yeen Hanjiang, as well as briefly going over their conversation in Yeen Hanjiang's eye injury. Zhongli sensed something was off upon hearing it. It was fortunate that flight was allowed within Xuanyuan sect, and Yeen Hanjiang seemed to have some hesitation, allowing Zhongli to arrive quickly enough to prevent disaster. In order to placate Yeen Hanjiang, Zhongli said, aside from the work at the main hall, there's something else I wanted to report to Sect Leader. You've said before you were keeping me at Xuanyuan sect to prevent you from throwing the cultivation world into chaos and disrupting Sir Wenren's plans. Is that right? Yes. As they spoke, Yeen Hanjiang's gaze never moved off Baili Qingmiao, and he didn't put down the army-crushing spike. Yeen Hanjiang was powerful enough that, if he wanted to kill Baili Qingmiao, no one would be able to stop him. His words and actions contradicted each other, showing there was still conflict within him. Zhongli couldn't force him. After some thought, he said, Does Sect Leader remember that Sir Wenren had always wanted to solve the mysteries surrounding Baili Qingmiao? Not too clearly. Ignoring Yeen Hanjiang's questionable state, Zhongli continued, I've traveled with Baili Qingmiao for 30 years and noticed two odd things about her. The first is that she seems to draw all kinds of heavenly treasures and spiritual lands to her, and be able to escape any kind of danger she finds herself in. The second is that Sir Wenren and I have labored hard to free Baili Qingmiao of her infatuation, and her condition was good when leaving Shangqing sect, so she would regress whenever she met with a heavenly tribulation. It was only because I had a heart-linking parasite and could sense her emotions that she managed to stay away from her sect for 30 years. What about those? Yeen Hanjiang reached out and grabbed Baili Qingmiao's leg, about to drag her over. At the blood hell, both changed. Hearing blood hell, Yeen Hanjiang finally reacted. He let go of Baili Qingmiao, focusing on Zhongli. Now that I think about it, this was something I overlooked. When Wenzhao brought Baili Qingmiao to the blood hell, I was long aware of it and had made a plan with Sir Wenren beforehand. I approved of that plan because I knew of Baili Qingmiao's special characteristics and believed that she wouldn't be hurt in the blood hell and might actually obtain an opportunity. I never imagined that she would be injured to such a degree and lose her bonded weapon. Zhongli sighed, his face filled with regret. I also never imagined that, after returning from the blood hell, Baili Qingmiao would want to die with a single-minded obsession as if possessed, to the point that I couldn't even restrain her. This doesn't make sense. Yeen Hanjiang listened intently. Baili Qingmiao also spoke up. I also feel that something isn't right. Previously, my mind was hazy, as if it wasn't me acting at all. I believe that something in the blood hell must have affected Baili Qingmiao, Zhongli said. Sir Wenren probably entered it despite the risk not only to resolve his blood cultivation, but also to investigate something. When I touched your leg just now, your leg was burning. Hanjiang suddenly said, "Do you have a fever?" "That would be my fault," Zhongli Qian said. "I asked Altar Master Shi to give some of his sickness tea to Baili Qingmiao so that she would be unconscious from fever and unable to seek death." Baili Qingmiao... ... She knew Zhongli Qian had good intentions, but it felt so awkward. When it came to Altar Master Shi, Hanjiang remembered perfectly clear. His muddled memories were all concerning Wenren E. Hearing that Altar Master Shi had transferred sickness to her, Hanjiang shook his head. "That doesn't make sense. There's no way Altar Master Shi's sickness qi could affect her." "Why?" Zhongli Qian had no knowledge of this. Acting without warning, Hanjiang extended a finger and tapped Baili Qingmiao's blindfold. Zhongli Qian slipped a bamboo scroll out of his sleeve in alarm. If Hanjiang jabbed his finger in, Baili Qingmiao would really lose that eye. Fortunately, Hanjiang's finger stopped at her blindfold. Shi Congxin was unable to curse Baili Qingmiao. Stopping after only one eye, how could he transfer sickness tea to her and leave her bedridden for over a year at that? Zhongli Qian wasn't clear on what he was referring to, and after hearing Hanjiang's explanation, told Su Huai, "Go find Altar Master Shi." "No need." Hanjiang scribbled out a message talisman with the message, "Get your ass over here." Zhongli Qian... ... The Hanjiang he was looking at seemed to be a completely different person from the Hanjiang he had first met. Altar Master Shi rushed over upon receiving the message. After fearfully hearing Zhongli Qian explain everything, he said, "Truthfully, when Altar Master Zhongli told me his request, I was in quite an awkward position. During that night, I never approached her and sat in a corner the whole time." He pointed at the corner of the room furthest from Baili Qingmiao. "If you didn't transfer sickness tea to her, how come she developed fever the next day?" said Zhongli Qian. Altar Master Shi trembled harder. "She took it herself. She'd been knocked out by Protector Qiu that evening, and suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. She walked over to me and sucked away my spiritual qi." "What?" Baili Qingmiao said in disbelief. "I don't remember that at all." I don't understand it either," Altar Master Shi said, pulling his cloak tighter. "Haven't you noticed that I haven't coughed much lately? You took most of my sickness tea and made me lose a lot of power. I can't have anyone notice, so when Altar Masters Miao and Ren roped me up in their fights, I didn't dare do anything." Everyone was puzzled by Altar Master Shi's words, but unbeknownst to them, as they spoke, great changes occurred in the blood hell. Being the place where the primordial gods had sealed 180,000 demonic gods, the atmosphere above the blood hell was influenced by demonic energy and always overcast. The gray sky wasn't covered with clouds, but a corrosive mixture of primordial chaos and demonic energy, which blocked sun and rain and ensured the weather in 100 li around the blood hell hadn't changed in 1,000,000 years. But now, the clouds of a heavenly tribulation attempted to form in the sky above the blood realm. It tried several times to gather, each time being devoured by chaos energy. Eventually, it powerlessly released 9 tiny sparks before vanishing. The moment it vanished, a whirlpool appeared on the ocean's surface. A man holding a black halberd flew out. Ignoring the restriction on flying above the blood hell, he landed on the top of the cliffs in one move. That man closed his eyes, as if taking in the experiences and memories of the past days. After 24 hours, he slowly opened his eyes. He wore only a white inner robe, covered with holes made by magical weapons. With a wave of his hand, a gray robe draped itself over his body. Along with the robe appeared 3 books and a blood-red stone. He first opened God of Annihilation Volume 1. Flipping through it, he said quietly, "1.5 years has passed. It seems I was late." Oh, ooh, y'all. These chapters have been so juicy. Ooh, so exciting. I think this is probably the most excited I've been about this series in general. Like, oh man, I just could not stop reading. Man, oh my gosh. Whew. Okay. So usually when I record, especially with all the stuff that I do now, I usually like record half a part of reading at one point and then the next half later. And with the really long Monday videos, I record throughout the whole weekend. So like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Thursday night, I read all but one chapter because it was so riveting. Okay, so yes, this morning I just read, well, the last 3 pages of the previous chapter and then this full chapter. And then I decided to add on another chapter because I realized we were under 2 hours. So chapter 55. Let's go ahead and go over my notes, shall we? And I'm gonna try to condense them. Yeah, I think I can condense them. I don't think it's as much as maybe it's looking like. So starting at chapter 44. First, I want to say that it was a pleasure to read through the thoughts of Wenren E's plan and Zhongli and even Altar Master Yuan's, even though, you know, he's not necessarily the most important character or anything like that. At least, well, I'm sorry, he hasn't been the most important character. Having him finally revealed was awesome. And then we got a little bit of an understanding of his thought process and how he was going to go about things. And again, I really, really appreciate that he just kind of got in there and got out. Like, it had to go through his thought process, but it didn't go through some really, really long, obnoxious backstory or anything like that. It was just like, here's his plan. He read the book. He wasn't sure how in the world he submitted to When-jow, but all he knew was he wanted to boom, 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 ABC. Loved that. Now, moving to chapter 49. Oh, before I do that, I am just glad to say also that it was nice to see Altar Master Yuan still got his butt whooped, though. Masks, they really do something for you, don't they? Now, moving to chapter 49. So, based on what we read, I'm going to say, not completely, but Baili Qingmiao isn't completely stupid, just sometimes willfully ignorant or willfully stupid. And I don't know how I feel about that. Because on 2 of the things, subject matters with Su Huai, was like, it's not that she didn't know. She just didn't want to believe it. It's like, okay, believe it, baby. It talks. Okay, if y'all don't know that reference, it's from Little Shop of Horrors. Anyway, going on to my next note. I think Wenren E's plan was actually brilliant, but still, with the way that things ended, it was just, like, even the best laid plans, they can go awry. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of mixing my chapter 49 and chapter 50 notes together. So the next thing I want to talk about is Wenzhao using the blood demon to assist him in his plans. You know, it's just one of those things where this is why I say I don't have an ounce of respect for righteous cultivators, because at least the demonic cultivators like Wenren E, Yeen, Hanjiang, and I'll even say some of the other ones, like, you know, Qiu Tongshui, Shu Yanyan, they let you know who they are. And they will totally do what they want to do to you out in the open, do their schemes and everything. I mean, now don't get me wrong, in the beginning, Shu Yanyan was disguising herself as a sweet, innocent little girl, blah, 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 blah. But again, they're using their own tactics, their own wills, and everything like that, and they know what kind of people they are. But then you have people like the righteous cultivators, like Wenzhao, who think that they're better than demonic cultivators, but you're using a freaking blood demon in your body. I mean, yes, did he invade your body? Yes. But the fact that you gave him power, that you have given him power to do things without you being aware, I'm sorry, but you're just as bad. What else do you expect? And so for him to let the blood demon almost kill Baili Qingmiao, and, you know, all of that stuff that happened, I don't even feel an ounce bad, because you basically made a deal with the devil. And in my opinion, when Okay, maybe not always, because some people truly don't know. But when you make a deal with the devil, I don't see you as any better than the devil himself. Especially for sure when it comes to scenarios in which you are seeking out revenge, money, power, fame, and all that stuff. I kind of sort of get it, you know, when people are truly innocent and they don't know what they're signing up for. But like my guy, you already had your doubts. You already were uncertain and unliking of the fact that when he took over, you didn't have consciousness and it would just be a blank spot. But you giving that authority over to him was you saying anything goes. Anyway, what did you guys think of Yeen Hanjiang's cry of pain? Because when I read it, let me tell you, when I first read it, I didn't know who it was coming from at first. Because I thought it was coming from Wenren you know, falling into the blood hell. And I don't know, I thought maybe his skin was boiling. So when I first read it, I read it like a cry of pain, but like physical pain. And then when I read a little further, I was like, oh, this is Yeen Hanjiang. You'll have no idea how many times I recorded that and it's just funny because I can think about other people on YouTube who would read it and they'd probably be like, so, I was really trying my best to be in character for it to be 10 p.m. Because I was like, I cannot be too loud and disrupt my neighbors, okay? So that was quite the experience. All I know is that reading that, oh my gosh, reading that, it hurt my heart so bad. Like even the chapters after, I was in pain right along with Yeen Hanjiang. Oh my God. Anyway, going to the next thing. I want to say, when I had said even the best laid plans can go awry, When-rehn Uh's plan was solid. And it still worked out, obviously, in the end. But one thing that he did not account for, or one person he underestimated was Yeen Hanjiang. Not necessarily his physical strength, although, yes, when he puts the mask on. But he underestimated Yeen Hanjiang's devotion and dedication to him. Because the minute that Altar Master Yuan said something about him dying, that man rose up, was like, roar, and transformed. So anyway, seeing Yeen Hanjiang go crazy at the blood hell and everything, it was heartbreaking, but he was also pretty badass, you know, and he passed the tribulation, so that was pretty cool of a level up. But going to chapter 51 notes, it was pretty interesting to see that when he takes the mask off, his power isn't the same. It's not as strong, it's not as potent, because his mental state doesn't have the capacity to carry that power yet. So that was interesting. I wonder if I missed it. So when I listen, I'll see if I missed it. But I'm wondering what the difference is between an immortal and a divine artifact and how they behave differently in this realm. So hopefully we'll get more on that. If I missed it, please put it in the comments. Because, you know, reading out loud, I don't absorb the information as well as I would if I just read in my head. That was a random note. Anyway, another thing that I want to point out is that Yeen Hanjiang being so obedient to Wenren when Wenren initially told him that he could follow him into the blood hell, was just like wow to me. Because he was going. He was like, up, he's going, I'm going too. And then when Wenren basically changed his mind in Yeen Hanjiang's POV and was like, no, he didn't, once he was released, he didn't go back to the blood hell to try to dive down in there again. Instead, he stayed back. And so I just loved that. And it was interesting to see, it mentioned resentment about Yeen Hanjiang having it, which it was crazy because I had wrote no resentment, ? Before I got to that part. But still, my question was more so toward Wenren and being told basically like, no, now you can't join me. It was surprising to see that he doesn't have resentment toward Wenren. Also, I'm feeling really bad about his hallucinations and everything and having to interact with him. I'm mixing my notes from 51, 52, 53, whatever, having to interact with the illusions to remember that they are just illusions, which is so freaking sad to me. And then, let's see, yes, I was so happy to get a bit of Xu Yanyan and Qiu Tongshue's friendship back in here, because at first, you know, after they had that fight or whatever, when Qiu Tongshue first returned, I was like, are they no longer cool? I wanted to see the girl power friendship, but okay, they're clearly still friends. They're just, their dynamic is hilarious. So, the next thing, speaking of Xu Yanyan, Miss, you so have a crush on Zhongli Qian, and you've had it for a long time. It's just one of those things where you don't want to go back on your nature and hopefully, you know, try to be a good girl to have just one man. That's how I feel. But that woman really likes Zhongli Qian because she can't snatch him up. Anyway, going to the last little bit, I think chapter 54, I think. I didn't write the chapter numbers here. So basically, in the book, which we already knew, it just labeled Wenren, fudge, Wenzhao as a man whore. And then, I think I mentioned it earlier, maybe not in these notes, in my previous video, that I wonder how much of fate can be changed, which now that we see Wenren is back, clearly he didn't die, but maybe he would still die. I don't know. But it's really hard to change fate, and I'm wondering if fate can truly be changed. Even if, like, intentions are different, feelings and motives are different, can fate truly not be changed? I guess we'll have to see. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about Modsun Ye Xiang Zhi Dao for these few chapters. It was a lot of chapters, but so good. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed them, and I need to hear your thoughts and reactions in the comments section. So please put them below, and I will interact with you guys. And I'll see you on Tuesday. 我爱你们。